Chapter 581. Su Yun was carried into the Lotus Star Hall by the people of the Lotus Star Sword sect. He was surrounded by an excited crowd. Although it was the first time everyone had met Su Yun, they all saw him as their idol. In fact, regardless of gender, they all worshipped heroes the same, and at that moment, he was a hero. Lord Su Yun, you were too powerful just now, that sword envoy or whatever, you actually dared to boast shamelessly. You must have suffered this time, right? Master Su Yun, what sect did you come from with your cultivation? When did the Imperial Sword technique allow you to control so many flying swords? This is the first time I've seen it. All of you, stop making a ruckus. Big Brother Su Yun has just experienced a great battle, and is still injured. Quickly put him down, and let him rest first. Yo Ching He, Lord Su Yun is an important person in the Realm Tree. How can you casually call him Big Brother? And you call me so intimately. What? Could it be that you have taken a fancy to Lord Su Yun? No, don't spout nonsense, it's just that Big Brother Su Yun has already entered our Lotus Star Sword sect. Logically speaking, he should be my junior brother, but he is an important minister of the Realm Lord, so I can naturally call him Big Brother. But when Lord Su Yun enters my Lotus Star Sword sect, he is also a protector. You are only an inner sect leader, so you can't call him that. At the very least, you should call him Protector Su. You guys, I'm not going to talk to you guys anymore. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. Seeing that, Su Yun felt helpless. He waved his hands and said, You guys can just call me Su Yun, there's no need to address me so much, I can't take it. In fact, many of you here have cultivation levels above mine. How is this possible? One of them said in shock. You are someone who can fight with the 4th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. The highest cultivation level we have here is only at the 2nd stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Su Yun laughed, he was too lazy to explain. The group of people noisily walked through the corridor, crossed an empty field, and finally entered the magnificent and majestic palace at the end of the field. As they approached the palace, the noisy crowd immediately quietened down. Everyone put Su Yun down and automatically lined up, and walked into the palace one by one. Seeing that, Su Yun thought, maybe the Lotus Star Palace was an extremely sacred place in the sect. He strode forward and followed the crowd, but he had only taken 2 steps when he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He lifted up the lapel of his robe and glanced at it. He saw that the skin and flesh there had all split open, and his entire chest was sunken inwards. It was extremely uncomfortable. Although he had dodged Yen Dongha's sword, it was hard to avoid his terrifying profound qi. Su Yun secretly clenched his teeth, endured the pain and walked inside. At this moment, in the Great Hall, the higher-ups of the Lotus Star Sword sect, led by Bu Ming, had all arrived. The ordinary disciples of the Lotus Star Sword sect were waiting outside the hall, and inside the hall were the disciples of the inner sect and above. Even so, there were close to 1,000 people densely packed here, and it was said that there were still a large number of people from the Lotus Star Sword sect rushing over. Because the sect leader's order was too sudden, many people did not have the time to come over. When Su Yun stepped into the hall, almost all eyes turned towards him. Their eyes were filled with reverence, respect, and admiration. To be able to save him as an outsider in a critical moment, not to mention anything else, his character and courage had already convinced everyone present. Greetings, Protector Su. When Su Yun approached an inner sect guard who was standing at the door, he immediately cupped his fists and bowed, and greeted respectfully. Hearing that, the others immediately cupped their fists and bowed towards Su Yun. Greetings, Protector Su. Greetings, Protector Su. Greetings, Protector Su. The great hall was filled with tsunami-like voices, like waves, wave after wave. Seeing that, Su Yun's footsteps paused, he looked at everyone seriously, then nodded his head, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. Protector? He actually had no intention of taking this position. Perhaps, after the sect leader finished speaking, He would have to continue searching for his parents. He wouldn't be able to stay in the Lotus Star Sword sect for long. People entered the palace one after another, but not long after, an old figure accompanied by 2 disciples walked into the palace. This person was the sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword sect. "Greetings, sect leader." The shouts rang out again. "Don't be too polite." The old sect leader looked at everyone and said, "Thank you, sect leader." People stood up. The old sect leader walked to the top of the palace. His dim yellow eyes stared at everyone present, and finally, his gaze landed on Su Yun, and after a few seconds, he moved his eyes away, and his bark-like lips started to move. "Today's calamity has passed. My Lotus Star Sword sect will not be destroyed, and will definitely be reborn like a Nirvana phoenix. However, all of you cannot slack off. In the future, you must work harder and comprehend more. You must not be lazy and enjoy yourself, do you understand?" "Disciple understands," everyone shouted. Bu Ming is fully in charge of the reconstruction of the sect. Bu Ming obeys. Bu Ming cupped his fists and said. He looked at the old sect leader and asked, "Then, sect leader, what about the recruitment? What expansion?" "The sect is expanding," Bu Ming said. "Our Lotus Star Sword sect is not inferior to the Black Hawk cult, but we have too few people. If we expand the sect and recruit talents, we will definitely be able to increase the strength of our sect. At that time, if the Black Hawk cult comes to provoke us again, we will not have to be afraid of them." Bu Ming spoke anxiously. However, at the moment, many people had the same thought. The old sect leader looked at Bu Ming quietly, thought for a while, then shook his head. "No need, I have never planned to expand." Sect leader, this, although the Lotus Star Sword sect also has its glorious moments, resounding throughout the entire continent, but that is not the original intention of our sect's ancestor. The meaning of a sect's existence is not to fight for hegemony over the world, to control the world, but to teach. We are a sect, not a sect. The Lotus Star Sword sect is not the Black Hawk cult. Anyone who wants to enter my Lotus Star Sword sect can. They can enter at any time, but I will not deliberately beg for it, nor do I wish for you to deliberately beg for it, nor do I wish for you to use the people you recruit as a sword. If that is the case, then people will not be people, but a type of martial power. So how can you live up to the name Lotus Star? Spirit cultivation, spirit cultivation, spirit cultivation. Cultivation is the Tao. If not the Tao, then it will distort the original intention, and will never be able to reach a higher realm. The old sect leader said slowly. With that said, Bu Ming opened his mouth, but did not know what to say. "The reason why I have gathered everyone here today is actually because I have something important to announce," the old sect leader said seriously, then waved to the disciple who entered the hall with him. The disciple immediately walked over and handed the treasure box to the old sect leader. Everyone looked at the treasure box. It was actually the treasure box that contained the Lotus Star Sword. What was this for? Everyone looked at each other, unable to understand what was going on. Bu Ming looked at the box strangely, his heart filled with doubt. Could it be that the matter that was going to be announced today was related to the Lotus Star Sword? Everyone had the same thought in their minds. The sect leader took the box, opened it, and took out the Lotus Star Sword inside. When the pure white lotus, slender and smooth sword was taken out from the box, everyone's eyes were attracted to the slender and beautiful treasured sword. Even Su Yun was no exception. This sword did not have any sharp aura. At first glance, it gave off a very gentle feeling. It was like a piece of pure white paper, without the slightest bit of dirt. The sword's body glowed with a bright light. It was exceptionally beautiful. In the middle of the sword's body, there was a lotus pattern, and a tranquil aura floated out from the sword's body. What kind of mystical aura was this? In front of this sword, it was as if all of the ruthlessness, cruelty, and coldness had turned into smoke. All of the blazing battle intent and hot blood had to calm down. Is this our sect's most valuable treasure, the Lotus Star Sword? It is indeed extraordinary. Although I haven't touched it, that aura is already shocking. Didn't you say that our sect's most valuable treasure, the Lotus Star Sword, was damaged? Why do I see that the sword is not damaged at all? Has this sword really been destroyed? It is indeed a broken sword. What you see is just an appearance, Bu Ming said. Does everyone see the lotus flower seal in the middle of the Lotus Star sword body? In fact, it was a colorful lotus flower seal, but right now there were only lines left. It was because the Lotus Star Sword had suffered an attack, causing all of the energy in the Lotus Flower Seal to be destroyed, causing its power to drop greatly. The current Lotus Star Sword's power is probably not even half of what it used to be. It's actually like this. Everyone was shocked and sighed. However, at this moment, everyone was curious. Why did the old sect leader take out the Lotus Star Sword at this time? Silence. At this moment, the old sect leader shouted in a low voice. Everyone in the palace immediately shut their mouths, not daring to say a word. The old sect leader had a solemn expression. His expression was extremely serious. He looked forward, took a deep breath, and then slowly opened his mouth, his voice heavy. Please, Protector Su Yun, come up and receive the sword. What? As soon as he said that, the entire audience was shocked. Su Yun was even more baffled. He looked at the old sect leader in astonishment. The old sect leader spoke out in a clear voice. Today, with my status as the 93rd generation sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword sect, I will specially pass on my sect's most precious Lotus Star Sword to my disciple, Su Yun, and teach him the sword technique, Lotus Star Sword art. I hope that he will bring glory to our sect's absolute art, and bring glory to our sect's teachings. Protector Su Yun, please receive the sword. The old sect leader looked at Su Yun and said seriously, his old hands holding onto the Lotus Star Sword firmly, extended towards him. Su Yun felt his mind go blank. He could not understand why things would turn out like this. Lotus Star Sword art? Lotus Star Sword art? These are all the absolute arts of the Lotus Star Sword sect. They should have been under the control of the sect leader. Why would they be passed down to me? Could it be that the old sect leader wants to pass down the position of sect leader to me? Su Yun thought, but very quickly, he denied that thought. The old sect leader knew that he was someone who was going to leave. Since he would not stay in the Lotus Star Sword sect, how could he dare to carelessly pass down the position of sect leader? Wasn't he going to bury the Lotus Star Sword sect? Su Yun's heart was at a loss. Looking at the sword, his eyes flashed with passion. Chapter 582. As someone who loved swords, this precious treasure was naturally something that he yearned for even in his dreams. Although it was currently a broken sword, no one could deny its might. Sect Master, why did you pass the sect's treasure to me? Su Yun was not in a hurry to receive the sword, but looked at the old sect leader seriously and asked. Compared to the Lotus Star Sword sect, I think this sword is more suitable for you. The old sect master said. Why do you say that? Do you know what a sword is used for? Murder. No, it's to protect. The old sect master shook his head. Then why not leave it in the Lotus Star Sword sect and use it to protect the sect? Guarding is not the responsibility of the sword, but the responsibility of the sword user. Only by using it can we achieve the goal of guarding, and now, this Lotus Star Sword has brought us more danger than guarding, so I plan to pass it to you, or rather, let you bring it away from the Lotus Star Sword sect. The old sect leader said. Hearing that, Su Yun was startled. After thinking for a moment, he seemed to have vaguely understood the old sect master's intentions. Today's calamity was caused by the Lotus Star Sword. In fact, not only today, in the past, when my sword sect encountered a calamity, it was also because of this sword. Back then, the second-generation sect leader brought this sword to roam the 4 seas, sweeping through the 8 wastelands, defeating all the heroes in the world, and defeating all the supreme expert in the world. Everyone thought that it was the work of the Lotus Star Sword, but in reality, no matter which supreme expert it is definitely not just his magic tool that is strong. Otherwise, Why is my Lotus Star Sword sect still at such a scale after so many years? The old sect leader's expression revealed an unconcealable vicissitude, and said, After today, I have already gained enlightenment, and continue to guard this Lotus Star Sword. It would be better to pass it to someone who needs it, and you, Su Yun, compared to me, you will definitely need this sword more, so today, in front of all the disciples, I will pass this sword to you. I hope you will not refuse. Hearing that, Su Yun did not speak for a long time. The old sect leader took a step forward, both hands holding onto the treasure sword. He looked at Su Yun and slowly spoke. The sword is right here. It's fine if you don't want to accept it. It's all up to fate. With that, he stood there quietly, as if waiting for Su Yun's decision. Su Yun looked at the spotless white sword. He did not know why, but he was strangely calm. He did not immediately accept the sword, nor did he immediately reject it. But after waiting for about 3 breaths, he still reached out and grabbed the hilt of the sword. I am willing to accept this Lotus Star Sword, he said seriously. The hierarch nodded in satisfaction, and a smile finally appeared on his face. The followers below were completely confused. The higher-ups of the Lotus Star Sword sect, led by Bu Ming, were even more restless. Finally, a deacon could not help but speak up. Sect leader, what did you mean by your words just now? Let Protector Su bring the sword away from the Lotus Star Sword sect? Could it be that you wish for this sword? Not bad. The old sect leader nodded his head and said indifferently, The reason Protector Su joined our sect is to repel the enemy. You all know his purpose in coming to the Linglong Mountain. He cannot stay in the sect for long, he will naturally leave in the future. Since that's the case, why did you pass this sword to Master Su Yun? Is it because he saved our sect? If that's what I mean, would you feel that it's inappropriate? The old sect master asked. When everyone heard this, they were speechless. In fact, just based on Su Yun's contributions, it was indeed reasonable to accept the sword. After all, without Su Yun, the sword and the sword technique would have long belonged to the Black Hawk sect. Why would it be here? However, if the Lotus Star Sword sect did not have these treasures, wouldn't this sect only exist in name? Everyone knew that the sect protecting treasure of the Lotus Star Sword sect was the Lotus Star Sword and its sword techniques, and this was also what the Lotus Star Sword sect relied on to stand tall in the Linglong Mountain. Without these 2 items, how would the Lotus Star Sword sect establish itself in the future? However, the old sect leader spoke again to reassure everyone. Whether the Lotus Star Sword exists in the Lotus Star Sword sect or not, that is not important. What is important is that all of us have the teachings of the Lotus Star in our hearts, and never forget the teachings of the Lotus Star at all times. That is enough. After so many years, we have not been able to bring the Lotus Star Sword to greater heights. Why not give it to someone who is fated? Furthermore, I believe that even if Protector Su Yun leaves the sect, he will never forget the Lotus Star Sword sect. The old sect leader said in a sincere tone. Although this was his reasoning, it was very pertinent. After some people heard this, the dissatisfaction in their hearts lessened by a lot. There was only one sword, so what did it matter if it was in the sect or not? Furthermore, if the Lotus Star Sword was in the sect, it would only bring more disasters to the Lotus Star Sword sect, causing the sect to never be able to be at peace. The development of a sect would never rely on a magic treasure. The old sect leader looked at everyone present seriously. When some people's faces were filled with reluctance and sadness, his face would reveal helplessness and disappointment. When some people's faces were extremely calm and indifferent, his face would reveal a gratified smile. When Su Yun saw the change in the old sect leader's face, he immediately understood. So it turned out that the reason why the old sect leader taught him this sword was not only because the Lotus Star Sword sect was unable to promote this sword, but also because it was used as a medium to test the mental state of every sword sect member. Alright, I still have something to discuss with Su Yun alone. If you all have nothing else to say, you can all leave. The old sect leader waved his hand and said, "Disciple will take his leave." Everyone called out in unison as they slowly left the Lotus Star Hall. When the last person left the Lotus Star Hall, only Su Yun and the old sect leader were left in the palace. The hall was extremely quiet. Su Yun looked at the old sect leader, not knowing what else he wanted to do. "Are you thinking that the Lotus Star Sword has brought so many disasters to my Lotus Star Sword sect? If I pass it to you now, it will only bring you disaster, right?" At this time, the old sect leader spoke. "I didn't think so," Su Yun said. "Oh, why? If that's the case, you can just give it to the Black Hawk cult. There's no need to guard these two items to the death." "That's right." The old sect leader nodded his head and said indifferently, "In fact, I already knew why the Black Hawk cult leader wanted these two items." He paced back and forth in the hall a few times and slowly said, "A few years ago, I received news that the Black Hawk cult leader had somehow found the remaining scrolls of my Lotus Star Sword art. Later on, I found out that his scrolls were made from my sect mold." Hearing that, Su Yun's eyes widened. "Could it be that my sect's Lotus Star Sword art is not incomplete?" Back when it was in the hands of the previous sect leader, the missing part of the Lotus Star Sword art had already been recovered. It was just that in order to prevent others from spying on it, I did not reveal this news. The old sect leader shook his head and sighed. The current spirit cultivator has long lost the essence that a cultivator should have. They have stepped onto the path of cultivation, and their goal is only for the sake of martial power, not to pursue the unity of nature and the unity of man and nature. They have bitterly cultivated for the sake of power, for the sake of greed, and there are many such people in my Lotus Star Sword sect. So, I did not say it out loud. Not only did I not announce this news, I even wanted to send the Lotus Star Sword out of the sect. Hearing that, Su Yun was startled, then laughed bitterly and shook his head. "If that's the case, then sect leader, you have entrusted the wrong person. In fact, my original intention of cultivating was only for revenge, for martial power, and is not much different from those spirit cultivators." "No, there's a difference." Without waiting for Su Yun to finish speaking, the old sect leader interrupted him. Su Yun was startled. However, the old sect leader did not explain, and slowly opened his mouth. The Black Hawk cult leader obtained an unknown piece of outer sky black iron. This black iron is a top-quality material. It can be used to forge divine weapons. The Black Hawk cult leader named it the Black Hawk Black Iron, with the intention of using it to repair the Lotus Star Sword, and with the Lotus Star Sword art, he would be able to repeat the glory of the current second-generation sect leader. But his thoughts were too simple. With just these two items, he would not be able to reach that level, and even if the second-generation sect leader was still alive, it would still be impossible for him to reach that level. "Su Yun, I know that you are anxious to find your parents, but please wait a few days. During this time, I will teach you all of the Lotus Star Sword art, and also, I will tell you the method to repair the Lotus Star Sword as well." "What?" Su Yun was shocked. "Repair the Lotus Star Sword art? Obtain the complete inheritance of the Lotus Star Sword art? Why is that?" Su Yun was completely confused. He could not guess what the old sect leader was thinking at all. Even if he had stopped the Black Hawk cult's plan, there was no need to do this, right? These two were the representatives of the Lotus Star Sword sect. However, the old sect leader did not give any explanation. He only took out a white book from his bosom and handed it over to Su Yun. The book was not some peerless secret manual, but something that everyone in the Lotus Star Sword sect had. Lotus Star's teachings. This was something that everyone had to read after joining the Lotus Star Sword sect. You have inherited the essence of the sword, and are a qualified swordsman, so I will pass these two items down to you. You know better than me that the sword is used to protect, not to kill, so you can use these two items well. I only hope that after you leave the sect, you can inherit the teachings of the Lotus Star, and never forget the teachings. If that's the case, I will be satisfied." The old sect leader did not say any beautiful or profound words. He only spoke his thoughts in a simple and plain manner. Su Yun listened to it in a daze, but after listening to it, his heart surged with waves that were difficult to calm down. Looking at the white book, he stood there quietly for a long time. In the end, he extended his hand and received the teachings. Seeing that the old sect leader was comforted, he patted Su Yun's shoulder and then walked out of the hall. The Lotus Star Sword art is extremely special. There are only 3 moves, and learning it all depends on one's comprehension. If it is fast, it will take 3 months. If it is slow, it will take forever. The people in the sect will only be able to learn the first move, and no one in the sect will know that there is a third move. Su Yun, I will pass the Lotus Star Sword art to you now. Follow me. Yes, sect leader. Su Yun nodded. He looked at the Lotus Star Sword in his hand, turned and walked out of the hall with the sword in his hand. Chapter 583. On the way to the Black Hawk cult, the black-clothed woman led the Black Hawk cult disciples into the sect with a cold expression. Yen Dongha was supported by the profound qi. He laid on the qi bed condensed from the profound qi, his eyes staring blankly at the sky. The wounds on his body had already been treated, but the injuries to the qi meridian and spirit core could not be healed in a short period of time. Have you thought about how you're going to explain this to the sect leader later? The black-clothed woman turned her head and stared at Yen Dongha with a cold face, and said in a deep voice. Yen Dongha bit his lower lip, but did not say anything in the end. I had originally thought that after you obtained a fortuitous encounter, your cultivation would definitely increase greatly, and it would be extremely easy for you to deal with the trash from the Lotus Star Sword sect. Even the sect leader took care of that old fellow from the Lotus Star Sword sect for you. I never thought that you would actually lose to a nameless nobody. I think that after today, you, Yen Dongha, will not have the face to stay in the Linglong Mountain. Seeing that Yen Dongha did not speak, the black-clothed woman continued to mock and ridicule. Hearing that, a trace of anger flashed past Yen Dongha's lifeless eyes, and he said angrily, Li Wu, don't go too far. That person is the Realm Lord's man. How could I dare to be ruthless? If we really do anything to him, it will only implicate our entire Black Hawk cult. Do you understand? Furthermore, the sect leader asked me to help you seize these 2 treasures, but he did not tell me that the Realm Lord's people are in the Lotus Star Sword sect. Your information is wrong, and now you still want to push all the blame onto me? I don't believe that you can live in peace. Yen Dongha, don't use that kind of arrogant tone to talk to me. Right now, 3 of your main qi meridian have already been injured, and your cultivation has dropped greatly. Right now, you don't even know if you can maintain your Sky Spirit Master cultivation. Do you think the sect leader will still value you? The black-clothed woman snorted. Hearing that, Yen Dongha's face changed. He wanted to say something, but it seemed to have affected his wound. He coughed violently a few times and spat out a mouthful of blood. A piece of trash. The black-clothed woman muttered to herself. She was too lazy to continue talking to Yen Dongha and continued to rush forward. Although flying was not allowed in the Linglong Mountain, everyone was flying close to the ground, and their speed was not slow. Very quickly, the black-clothed woman, Yen Dongha and the rest arrived at the foot of the mountain where the Black Hawk cult was located. At this moment, thick smoke billowed on the mountain, and a large amount of violent Xian qi floated down from the mountain. When the black-robed woman sensed this aura, her expression immediately froze. What's going on? Lordly, something doesn't seem right. One of the Black Hawk cult members in front turned his head and said, The 2 of you, quickly go up the mountain and check out the situation, the black-clothed woman said in a low voice. Yes. The 2 of them cupped their fists and said, then increased their speed and rushed up the mountain. However, before the 2 of them could go far, they saw a few disciples of the Black Hawk Hall rushing down the road. These people looked flustered, their bodies covered in blood and wounds, all of them rolling and crawling down, looking extremely miserable. Ah, it's Lord Li Wu and Lord Sword Envoy. When these followers saw the black-robed woman and the others, it was as if they had seen their saviors. One by one, they madly rushed over. What the hell happened? The black-robed lady grabbed one of them and asked anxiously. Destroyed, destroyed, completely destroyed. That follower's voice trembled as he cried out. Destroy what? The black-clothed woman unceremoniously slapped that person twice and shouted sternly, Speak properly. That person covered his face with his hands, looking aggrieved. Just as he was about to speak, the other person beat him to it and screamed hysterically, Lord Li Wu, the Black Hawk cult has been destroyed. The sect leader has died tragically. All the elites of the sect have died in battle. The Black Hawk cult has been completely destroyed. What? The black-clothed woman and the others were petrified, all of them completely shocked. There's a huge dragon on the mountain. This dragon's entire body is on fire. It's so powerful, it opened its mouth and burned the entire Black Hawk Hall. No one can stand in front of it for a single breath. It ate everyone. All of them were eaten. The people in the sect either died or fled. Lord Li Wu, hurry up and escape. If we are discovered by that dragon, we will all be finished. After saying that, the group of followers ignored the black-clothed woman and the others and ran forward with all their might. The black-clothed woman's expression changed and her mind was in a mess. How could she have thought that such a huge Black Hawk cult would disappear just like that? Could it be that the sect leader had offended some supreme expert? The black-clothed woman pondered. Roar! At this moment, an angry roar that shook the heavens spread throughout the entire mountain. The black-clothed woman and the others' expressions all changed. Li Wu, what are you still standing there for? If you don't want to die, then hurry up and run. Yen Donghe, who was on the gas bed, shouted at the black-clothed woman. The black-clothed woman was stunned for a moment before she regained her senses and said anxiously, Let's go, let's leave this place. Yes. Yes. Everyone nodded and immediately turned to leave. However, at this moment, the mountain top suddenly trembled, and then with a bang, the entire mountain top exploded. A huge, fiery red divine dragon leaped out of the mountain top and went straight into the clouds. It hovered above the 9 heavens, looking down at all the living beings below. The blazing temperature dyed countless white clouds red, and the flames that overflowed from its body seemed to burn the sky. What kind of majestic and divine dragon was this? When the black-clothed woman and the others saw such a huge spirit beast, their bodies trembled violently. The aura released by the divine dragon had completely shattered the last line of defense in their hearts. If not for their survival instincts, they would have already knelt on the ground and kowtowed to it. Poochie! At this moment, the sound of flesh being cut came from behind the black-clothed woman. Her hair stood on end as her entire body trembled in shock. She immediately turned around to see a man dressed in fiery red clothes and holding a blood-red thin sword standing behind them. Beside him were a few cold, headless corpses. These corpses were the Black Hawk cult members who had escaped from the mountain. Run! Did I allow you to run? The man snorted. He turned around and looked at the black-clothed woman and the others with disgust. He asked, Hey, are you guys from the Black Hawk cult? We? The black-clothed woman was stunned for a moment before she hurriedly smiled and said, No, of course not, no? Then forget it. The man snorted and was about to leave. Suddenly, from the corner of his eyes, he saw the medallions hanging on everyone's waist. Suspicious, he turned his head to look at the medallions hanging on the waists of the corpses, and his face immediately darkened. Damn it, you are clearly from the Black Hawk cult, yet you still dare to lie to me. He roared angrily. With that, he directly swung his sword towards Yen Donghe, who was lying on the bed of qi. Yen Donghe almost didn't have time to defend. His body was cut into 2 halves. The thin sword released a scorching heat, directly burning all the blood in his body. Yen Donghe died a horrible death. When the other members of the Black Hawk cult saw this, they were scared out of their wit. But at this moment, the black-clothed woman roared. Everyone, don't be afraid. He's only one person. We have nearly 100 people here. Are we still afraid of him? Let's attack together and kill him." With this encouragement, the terrified people came back to their senses. That's right, there were so many of them. What was there to be afraid of? With that, everyone pounced forward like a swarm of bees. "Your Black Hawk cult is starting to bully us again. Damn it, damn it. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless." The man roared angrily. His eyes were blood-red, as if he was extremely annoyed by the actions of these people. His sword attacks became even more ferocious. His sword was so fast that there was no shadow, and it was exceptionally sharp. No matter whose weapon touched his sword, it would be split into two. In a short while, more than half of the Black Hawk cult members were injured, and they were completely beaten into a pile of loose sand. The black-clothed woman was about to go up and support him, but seeing how fierce the other party was, how could she dare to participate in the battle? He quickly turned around and was about to escape. But just as she turned around, a ferocious fire dragon flew towards her. Su Yun stood quietly in front of a flat, white expanse of land. The ground here was extremely mystical. It was clearly paved with white jade, but there were lotus flowers growing on the floor. There was no soil or water, but the lotus flowers were exceptionally beautiful. In front of the lotus stood an old man. The old man held a long sword in his hand, the tip of the sword pointed at a lotus flower. His eyes were closed as he muttered something. The most important thing about the Lotus Star Sword art is not the sword move, but the mental move. The Lotus Star Sword art only has 3 moves. Strictly speaking, it does not have any ingenuity, but its advantage is that it can be used as it pleases. However, in order to use the Lotus Star Sword art, there must be a prerequisite, and that is to place your own mind in a completely clear state. You must maintain a state of mind that is like a lotus flower in order to unleash the greatest power of the Lotus Star Sword art. As the old sect leader spoke, he began to brandish the sword in his hand. What was surprising was that his sword dance was extremely slow. Every time he moved, his breathing would slow down. The sword in his hand seemed to have been slowed down countless times, causing people to feel impatient. The sword did not have any power, nor did it have any aura, much less injure the enemy. Seeing that, Su Yun frowned. "Sect leader, how can such a sword hurt people? Don't hurt others as your goal, just protect them." The sect leader said slowly as he continued to move, "You must believe that this sword will protect you. When danger comes, it will help you defeat your opponent." With that said, the old sect leader's sword tip swayed once in front of Su Yun's eyes. It was still very slow, but from his appearance, he was already hinting to Su Yun to try and attack him. Seeing that, Su Yun asked, "How much strength do you use?" 100%. The old sect leader said without any trace of politeness. Hearing that, Su Yun's eyes congealed. He took a deep breath, activated the profound chi, and his speed exploded. He rushed towards the old sect leader like a whirlwind. At the same time, he pulled out the Lotus Star Sword in his hand and thrusted straight at the old sect leader. This sword strike was dazzling and swift, causing people's eyes to light up. However, just as the tip of the sword was about to touch the old sect leader's body, his slow sword suddenly moved. As if it had been attracted by something, the sword blade moved straight to the location where Su Yun was attacking. Clang! A crisp sound rang out. A gigantic white lotus imprint appeared in front of the old sect leader. Su Yun smashed onto the white lotus imprint, causing his entire body to suffer a backlash. A burst of force struck his body, causing him to fly backwards. Chapter 584. Bang! Su Yun fell into the group of white lotus flowers, coughed violently a few times, and then crawled up in a sorry state. "Su Yun, are you all right?" The old sect leader put down his sword and asked. "I'm fine, sect leader, don't worry about me," Su Yun said. A look of surprise flashed past his eyes, and he asked anxiously, But, sect leader, what exactly is going on? Why do I feel like I was attacked by my own chi? Furthermore, although I suffered a powerful attack, I did not suffer any injuries. What exactly is going on? Hearing that, a smile appeared on the old sect leader's face, and he chuckled. This is the power of the Lotus Star Sword art. The attack you suffered just now was the attack I wanted you to suffer. You want me to suffer an attack? Hearing that, Su Yun was confused. What do you mean? This is the meaning of the Lotus Star Sword art. No moves are better than moves. Do as you please, do as you please. When your state of mind is as clear as a lotus, you can use the sword technique to unleash the moves you want at any time. For example, that move just now I only wanted to counterattack, and it had such an effect, the old sect leader said. Hearing that, Su Yun's pupils dilated a few times. So magical? Then isn't this sword technique too heaven-defying? Otherwise, why would this sword technique be so coveted? However, ordinary swords can only unleash the ordinary moves of the Lotus Star Sword art. For some powerful thoughts, you still need to cooperate with the Lotus Star Sword in order to successfully activate them. Think? This was the first time Su Yun had heard of such a new word. Then, if I want the other party to die, can I do it through this sword technique? Su Yun suddenly thought of something and asked. Sure. The old sect leader nodded without hesitation. Hearing that, Su Yun's heart jumped. Is that really possible? It is possible, but ever since the Lotus Star Sword art and the Lotus Star Sword were created, this kind of thought has only succeeded once. Furthermore, the price paid to realize this thought through the sword technique is extremely heavy. The old sect leader shook his head. Actually, the strength of the thought is closely related to the sword user himself. Causing a person to die is equivalent to defying the heavens and changing fate. This kind of profound technique has destroyed the balance of nature, and is not tolerated by the heavens and earth, so the trigger of death can only happen under one circumstance, and that is, the opponent is already severely injured, and you have more than half of the profound chi to rely on. If you do not have these conditions, it is impossible to achieve the thought of death. Is that so? Not only that, after you die, one of your main meridians will be damaged. In other words, your cultivation base will drop. As for how much it will drop, it will depend on the degree of damage to your main meridians. In my opinion, don't use it unless you have no other choice, because if you die and fail, there will be serious consequences. I've said it before, there aren't many moves in the Lotus Star Sword art, but in reality, these so-called 3 moves can be split into 2 moves. One move does not require the Lotus Star Sword, and the other move can only be successfully executed with the help of the Lotus Star Sword. Su Yun, I don't have much to teach you, the rest, you need to work hard on your own. The old sect leader said earnestly. Hearing that, Su Yun nodded his head seriously. Following that, the old sect master continued to slowly dance with his sword. The way he danced with his sword was not done randomly, but with reason. The reason he danced with his sword was not to kill or defend against the enemy, but to mobilize the profound chi in his body and arrange it all over his body, so that he could use it to display his thoughts. Su Yun watched carefully, not daring to be distracted in the slightest. In his experience, all sword techniques only had one goal, and that was to kill the enemy. The Limitless sword arts was the same, regardless of whether it was the lower 4 swords, the middle 2 swords or the absolute sword, they were all aimed at destroying the opponent. Currently, the Limitless sword arts that Su Yun had grasped had already reached a bottleneck. He felt that he no longer had any clues, and it was difficult for him to break through his understanding of sword technique. However, the Lotus Star Sword art seemed to have opened a new door for him, so it turned out that sword techniques could also be used in this way. In the past few days, Su Yun and the old sect leader had been immersed in the lotus flowers. Every word the old sect leader said would allow him to reap great benefits, just like the teachings of the Master Subhuti. It made people reminisce and reap great benefits. After an unknown number of days, Just as Su Yun was immersed in his studies and was unable to extricate himself, a shout suddenly came from outside the lotus flowers, breaking the tranquility. Sect leader, I have urgent news to report, sect leader. The voice belonged to Bu Ming. When the old sect leader heard it, he immediately stopped and turned to look, only to see Bu Ming rushing over like a gust of wind, and anxiously bowed towards Su Yun and the old sect leader. Why are you in such a panic? The old sect leader asked. Bu Ming's voice trembled as he said anxiously, I just received news that the entire Black Hawk cult has been destroyed, and a fire dragon that is comparable to a divine beast has appeared at the top of the Black Hawk mountain. It is reported that the Black Hawk cult was destroyed by this fire dragon, and now the Feather Moon Pavilion has issued a collective order, requesting all the experts of the sects in the Linglong Mountain to head to the Black Hawk Mountain to exterminate the fire dragon. What? The Black Hawk cult was destroyed? The old sect leader was shocked. Su Yun was even more astonished. He could not believe his own ears. How was it possible for such a huge sect to disappear just like that? This is absolutely true. I didn't believe it at first, but after I heard about the gathering order from the Feather Moon Pavilion, I believed it. Sect leader, what should we do now? Do we respond to this order? Bu Ming asked. Of course we have to respond. The fire dragon is an ancient vicious beast. It often causes trouble to living beings. Since we are from the Linglong Mountain, we have to protect the peace of the mountain. Bu Ming, quickly count your men, we can set off immediately. The old sect leader said. Hearing that, Bu Ming nodded and was about to leave. But just as Bu Ming left, another disciple of the Lotus Star Sword sect ran in. Greetings, sect leader, greetings, Protector Su. The disciple knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. What's the matter? The old sect leader asked. Reporting to sect leader, there's a young man outside who wants to see the sect leader. He said that he wants to learn sword techniques from the sect leader. The disciple said. Learning sword techniques? The old sect leader frowned. Does he want to join my Lotus Star Sword sect? Disciple once invited him to join the sword sect, but he refused. He insisted on seeing you, and disciple felt that this person's cultivation was not ordinary. I'm afraid that he has something to report to you, so I reported it to sect leader. The man said. Hearing this, the old sect leader nodded his head. You've done well. However, since that young man wants to see me, then let him in. Perhaps he has some ideas that he wants to discuss with me. If that's the case, I can't shut him out. Yes, sect leader. The man cupped his fists, then turned and left. Sect leader, I'll be going back to my room first. Su Yun said. There's no need to be in such a hurry to leave. You can also listen from the side. Maybe it will be of some help to you. The old sect leader said. Hearing that, Su Yun thought for a while, then nodded. Very quickly, the disciple of the Lotus Star Sword sect walked in with a young man dressed in a fiery red blade master outfit. The man was extremely tall, skinny, and handsome. His long hair was tied into a braid, and he looked rather carefree. Oh, are you the sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword sect? Nice to meet you. The man walked over quickly, sized up the old sect leader, cupped his fists, and said with a smile, My name is Xiao Huailin, I am a scholar. Scholar? The old sect leader was startled, then chuckled and said, In that case, you are not here to join my Lotus Star Sword sect. Of course not, unless you are willing to hand over your position as sect leader to me. If that's the case, I might consider joining the Lotus Star Sword sect. Xiao Huailin hugged his chest and laughed. As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed. Hey, what are you talking about? How can you be so rude to the sect leader? The person who brought Xiao Huailin in immediately berated. However, the old sect leader slightly raised his hand and laughed. It's nothing, Lord Xiao is just joking, there's no need to take it seriously. Hearing that, the man glared at Xiao Huailin fiercely, and did not make a sound. However, this Xiao Huailin made Su Yun unhappy. No matter what, The old sect leader had passed down the Lotus Star sword to him, and even taught him sword technique. In his heart, he was already half a teacher, and this person was disrespectful to his own teacher. How could he be happy? Xiao Huilin laughed out loud, nodded his head and laughed. Not bad, you, the sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword sect, is more sensible than the Black Hawk sect leader. Not bad, haha. Black Hawk sect leader? The old sect leader was startled. Xiao Huilin opened his mouth again. He stopped smiling, stared at the old sect leader and said, I have not been in the Linglong Mountain for long, but not long ago, I heard from someone that your Lotus Star Sword sect has two great treasures. One is a peerless sword called Lotus Star, and the other is a Lotus Star sword art that matches with this sword. I came here today in hopes that sect leader can give me the Lotus Star sword and teach me the Lotus Star sword art. As an outstanding scholar, I feel that I should be able to learn the Lotus Star sword art very quickly. Alright, where is the Lotus Star sword? Hurry up and take it out. Xiao Huilin looked left and right, his expression indifferent. However, this time, the expressions of the three people present were no longer as good as before. If the previous sentence could be treated as a joke, then this time, it was no longer a joke. Is the reason you came here for the Lotus Star sword and its sword techniques? Su Yun raised his head and stared at Xiao Huilin. Xiao Huilin turned his head and looked at Su Yun, and when he saw his sword sheath, his eyes lit up. Are you also a sword user? Are you willing to spar with me? I don't want to, Su Yun said directly. Are you afraid of my swordsmanship? Or do you not have confidence in yourself? Xiao Huilin said with the corner of his mouth raised. Neither. It's just that I'm injured right now and don't want to fight with you. If you want to take advantage of me, then I can't do anything about it. Su Yun shrugged his shoulders. Hearing that, Xiao Huilin was startled, but quickly laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, you are quite interesting. Su Yun did not say a word, but at that moment, he had already treated Xiao Huilin as an enemy. Xiao Huilin turned his head, looked at the old sect leader, and laughed. My purpose for coming here are these two, quickly bring them over. If you don't, I won't give up. If you want me to give up, that's fine, as long as you defeat me, but I have to warn you, you have to fight me alone. If you want to call for help, then I will also call for help. Chapter 585. The sudden appearance of Xiao Huilin caused Su Yun's head to be filled with fog. Hearing his shameless words, it would be a lie to say that he was not angry. Especially the disciple who brought Xiao Huilin into the sect. He was furious. If not for the sect leader being here, he would have taught this arrogant brat a lesson. Sect leader, what is his cultivation level? Su Yun said to the old sect leader in a low voice. Based on my initial judgment, the third grade of Sky Spirit Master can be considered an incredible existence. The old sect leader said. What does the sect leader plan to do? What else can I do other than reject it? The old sect leader shook his head, then said to Xiao Huilin, Lord Xiao, if you are willing to discuss sword techniques with me, I am naturally willing. If you want to learn our sect's sword techniques, it is not impossible, but if you want to obtain our sect's most precious Lotus Star sword, I am afraid that it will be difficult for you to comply. Are you going to reject me? Xiao Huilin opened his eyes wide, and stared at the old sect leader. Sir, it is a bit rude to ask for the truth. I cannot agree to it, the old sect leader said calmly. Unexpectedly, when he said that, Xiao Huilin's smiling face immediately turned cold. He stared fiercely at the old sect leader and shouted angrily, You actually dare to reject me, you despicable old man. I, Xiao Huilin, am known as the #1 sword in the world. For your sect to be able to use that Lotus Star sword of yours is the fortune of your sect and that sword, to actually reject me. Alright, since that's the case, then let's fight. If you don't send someone to defeat me, I won't give up. Xiao Huilin shouted, and then directly pulled out the sword from his back, and stabbed it into the ground. When the sword was unsheathed, a wave of heat spread from the body of the sword. Su Yun stared at the sword, only to see that it was blood-red in color, different from the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. Its red was a type of magma red, and its temperature was abnormally high. It was probably not an ordinary item. Suddenly, Su Yun sensed that something was amiss. He saw that the place where the sword had pierced into the ground had already melted. The ground there was bright red, as though it was about to be roasted. Such a high temperature, Su Yun was secretly shocked. Since the challenge was over, Xiao Huailin stared at the old sect leader, as though he was waiting for his reply. The old sect master did not reply immediately. Instead, he lowered his head and pondered. "It's not impossible for us to spar." Finally, the sect leader spoke. He looked at Xiao Huailin and said indifferently, "If it's just a matter of time, can I spar with you?" "Hey, what do you mean by stop? That's too boring. If we want to fight, we'll fight to the death." Xiao Huailin snorted. "If I kill you, I will take away the Lotus Star Sword and its sword technique. If you kill me, this matter will be over." "If that's the case, then forgive me for not being able to agree." The old sect master shook his head and refused. But at this time, Xiao Huailin seemed to be tired of the old sect leader's casual rejection. He growled, and a series of angry shouts came out of his mouth. "You old fellow, you're too unhappy. If you agree, then you agree. If you don't agree, then you don't agree. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? You don't have to fight me just because you don't want to? It's not up to you." With that said, Xiao Huailin took out the blood-red slender sword in front of him and directly slashed towards the old sect leader's head. His movements were quick and violent, without any hesitation. Seeing that, the old sect leader retreated backwards as if he had teleported, but the opponent's sword was not only fast, it was even more ruthless. When the sword slashed down, the sword's body flickered with a red light, and a wisp of dark red sword chi flew out, striking towards the old sect leader. When he discovered the sword chi, it was already too late. The old sect leader could only raise his sword to meet the attack, but the sword in his hand was not the most ordinary sword in the Lotus Star Sword sect. It was simply unable to withstand the attack of the sword chi. The sword chi directly shattered the sword, and firmly struck the old sect leader's chest. The old sect leader retreated a few steps, his body swaying uncontrollably. He started to cough violently, and his face was extremely pale. He had been injured before, and before he could recover, he was already teaching Su Yun sword techniques, so how could he endure the sudden attack from his opponent? However, Xiao Huailin's methods had completely angered the Lotus Star Sword sect disciple, as well as Su Yun, who was at the side. Seeing that the situation was not right, the disciple shouted and immediately ran away. Su Yun, on the other hand, was not courteous at all. He immediately raised his sword and rushed forward, killing towards Xiao Huailin. Clang! The pitch-black death sword struck onto Xiao Huailin's blood-red slender sword, and the two of them held onto their swords. "What are you doing? Didn't we agree to fight one-on-one? Do you want to bully others with more people?" Xiao Huailin shouted angrily at Su Yun. "Bullying the few with more people? You're still bullying the injured? The sect leader is injured, and his strength is not as strong as before, yet you force him to fight you at this time. What face do you have to say such words to me? You want to fight? I'll accompany you." With that, Su Yun increased his strength, attempting to force Xiao Huailin away. However, Xiao Huailin shook his head and said in disdain, "You want to fight with me? I don't want to fight with you. You said before that you're injured, and your cultivation doesn't seem to be that high. Fighting with you is too boring." With that said, Xiao Huailin's arm moved, and a terrifying force that was as strong as Mount Tai erupted from the blood-red sword. When had Su Yun ever fought against such a terrifying force? Compared to Yen Dongha's strength, it was like the difference between an ant and a giant elephant. He was caught off guard and his body was sent flying. He retreated nearly 100 meters before stopping. So strong. Su Yun secretly clenched his teeth. Although it was only a single move, he already had a feeling, although this person's cultivation was at the third stage of the Sky Spirit Master, his strength was definitely not, and was definitely higher than this. Su Yun, don't act recklessly, you are not his match, the old sect leader said anxiously. He knew Xiao Huailin's methods better than Su Yun. I understand that I am not his match, but other than fighting him, do I have any other choice? Su Yun said coldly. Yes, if you hand over the Lotus Star Sword and the sword technique, wouldn't everything be fine? Xiao Huailin snorted. That's impossible. The old sect leader shook his head. Lord Xiao, with your state of mind, it is not suitable for you to possess the Lotus Star Sword, and even more so, it is not suitable for you to cultivate the Lotus Star Sword art. If I were to pass these two items to you, it would only be a waste of these two treasures. Damn it, are you insulting me? Xiao Huailin was furious. He immediately rushed forward again, but this time, he was rushing towards the old sect leader. Seeing that, Su Yun did not hold back. He raised his sword and rushed forward. He did not hold back at all, and immediately took out the immortal mystical Scarlet Blood Sword, Death Sword, Desolator Sword and Tribulation Fire Sword. The three mother swords and one head sword quickly circled around Xiao Huailin, and the chaotic sword intent wrapped around him tightly like a storm. Xiao Huailin quickly waved the slender sword in his hand. His speed was so fast that even Su Yun found it hard to catch. It was many times faster than Yen Donghe. Even if Su Yun activated the Divine Wind sword art and unleashed his maximum speed, he would not be able to keep up with his rhythm. It was not that the Divine Wind sword art was not as fast as him, but the difference in cultivation made it difficult for him to match up to him. Is this the Imperial sword art? Interesting, interesting. These swords are also interesting. Ha 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 ha, I never thought that I would meet such an interesting person like you here. You are called Su Yun, right? I've decided I'll fight you. Xiao Huailin laughed out loud as he defended against the attacks of the four swords. The anger on his face had already disappeared, and what replaced it was excitement and agitation, as if he had discovered a treasure. This person was really temperamental. But hold on for now. Wait for the experts of the Lotus Star Sword sect to come over, then think of a way to chase him away. This person did not attack through a challenge, and had already violated the rules of the mountain. Even if his cultivation was strong, and the people of the Lotus Star Sword sect were helpless against him, it was fine. If he violated the rules of the mountain, he could use this to summon the experts of the Linglong Mountain to surround and annihilate him. Su Yun thought and increased the activation of the profound qi. So thousands of flying swords flew out from the sword sheath and surrounded him like a whirlwind. In that moment, Xiao Huailin was completely submerged by the 1,000 swords, and his figure could no longer be seen. Seeing that, the old sect leader frowned, but he understood that there was no room for discussion now that things had come to this. He took out an order badge and activated it. A green light shot out from the center of the order badge and shot into the sky, forming a huge lotus pattern in the sky. It lasted for 4 to 5 breaths of time before disappearing. Then, the old sect leader said, Su Yun, this person's strength is above Yen Donghe, and is several times stronger than Yen Donghe. With the current strength of my sword sect, I am afraid it will be difficult to deal with him, but his actions have already violated the rules of the mountain. I have already informed the experts of the Linglong Mountain, and asked them to rush here to capture this person. All right. Su Yun nodded. But in the next second, his qi meridian suddenly felt pain, the profound qi in his body started to stir, and before he could stabilize himself, a mouthful of blood spurted out from his throat. Su Yun retreated a few steps, holding onto his chest. At that moment, he felt a heart-wrenching pain coming from his chest. Crap, when he fought with Yen Donghe earlier, his chest was severely injured, and his injuries had not healed yet. Now that he was urging his qi like this, his old injuries had relapsed. Su Yun's heart became heavy. Before the qi could be transmitted, the flying swords also started to sway. Xiao Huailin, who was surrounded by the flying swords, immediately grabbed onto the thin sword and slashed down. Clang! The whirlwind formed by the flying swords was directly split apart, and a large number of flying swords fell to the ground. Although you are injured, I have already decided to fight you. Then I should go all out. Now you can die and let me enjoy the glory of victory. Xiao Huailin rushed out of the whirlwind and attacked Su Yun, his face filled with a sinister and complacent smile. Seeing that, Su Yun's heart sank. He gritted his teeth and waved his hand. The tribulation fire sword suddenly flew over and blocked the attack. But Xiao Huailin suddenly changed his sword's stance. The sword that was supposed to be slashing towards Su Yun's head suddenly turned and pierced towards his heart. This is an illusion technique? Su Yun's heart suddenly turned cold. Xiao Huailin actually used an illusion technique to confuse him. The sword that was supposed to be slashing at him was not real. His real posture was always maintaining his thrusting motion. What a brilliant sword technique! Su Yun knew that even at his peak, he was not Xiao Huailin's match. This person was indeed not ordinary. But if he were to admit defeat like this, then he wouldn't be Su Yun. In this moment of crisis, he suddenly extended his hand and slapped towards the sword. Although he was unable to block the sword, he could at least change the trajectory of the sword and avoid any vital point. As long as he didn't die, he still had a chance. Su Yun thought sinisterly. However, at this critical moment, a figure suddenly appeared from the side. Then, a deep shout was heard, white lotus sky piercing. With that said, Su Yun felt rays of multicolored light flash past his eyes. Before he could even see clearly, Xiao Huailin's body was sent flying. Chapter 586. Bang! Xiao Huailin crashed into a building outside of the lotus flowers. The building immediately exploded, and the chaotic profound qi turned the entire house into powder. Su Yun looked. It was the old sect leader. The old sect leader held onto the broken sword and stared at the ruins. A dense aura was still circling around his body. He looked at Su Yun with a heavy expression, then turned his head and said, Su Yun, your injuries are severe. Don't urge your qi anymore. If you hurt your qi channels, it will only cause your cultivation to drop. The gains will not make up for the losses. I can handle this. You should leave first. Sect leader, you might not understand me, Su Yun. Su Yun grinned. What I don't like the most is for others to say what you just said to me. This will only make me even more unwilling to leave. When the old sect master heard this, he sighed. Why are you so stubborn? Perhaps to you this is stubbornness, but to me this is principle. You! Sigh, forget it, forget it. The old sect master no longer tried to persuade him. At this moment, a figure rushed out of the ruins, straight into the clouds, and floated in the sky. Su Yun and the old sect leader looked over. It was Xiao Huailin. Xiao Huailin was glaring at the two of them. His face was distorted beyond recognition. He stared at Su Yun and the old sect leader with extreme anger, and roared ruthlessly. I am dueling with Su Yun. Why are you interfering? Are you going to help Su Yun? Are you trying to bully me with numbers? Xiao Huailin, I originally had no intention of becoming enemies with you, but since you are so overbearing, I have no choice but to offend you, the old sect leader said in a deep voice. At this time, it was useless to be polite. Alright. Good. Alright. Xiao Huailin was so angry that he gasped for breath, and said angrily, You guys have more people to bully me. It's not fair to win. I, Xiao Huailin, have already won this battle, but do you think I will give up just like that? Since it's 2 against 1, I'll call for help too. We'll fight 2 against 2. Is that fair? With that, Xiao Huailin immediately extended his hand, touched his waist, and injected a thread of profound energy into the belt on his waist. In an instant, roar! A roar that shook the heavens resounded. Su Yun and the old sect leader's face changed. After the flame left the belt, it crazily expanded, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the size of a small mountain. After the flame faded, a majestic fire dragon appeared beside Xiao Huailin, the fire dragon coiled in the air. A pair of copper bell-like eyes stared fiercely at Su Yun and the old sect leader. "Is this a fire dragon?" The old sect master was stunned. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and cried out in shock. "Could it be that you are the one who destroyed the Black Hawk cult?" "Destroy the Black Hawk cult." Su Yun's heart sank. Only then did he remember the news that Bu Ming had reported about the Black Hawk cult. Wasn't the Black Hawk cult destroyed by a fire dragon? Could it be? This was all done by Xiao Huailin? The people of the Black Hawk cult bullied me with their numbers, so I had no choice but to teach them a lesson. Right now, their souls are all in my brother's stomach. Do you want to see the people of the Black Hawk cult? Don't worry, I'll send you to them right away. With that, Xiao Huailin waved his hand. The gigantic fire dragon roared angrily and rushed towards the two of them. As it approached the two of them, the fire dragon opened its mouth wide. Its blazing mouth was like a black hole filled with magma. Su Yun wanted to retaliate, but just as he was about to activate the profound chi, a heart-wrenching pain came from his chest once again. It seemed that his injuries were not light. Su Yun clenched his teeth and thought. The old sect leader held onto the broken sword with one hand, and directly thrusted it towards the fire dragon's mouth. A wave of profound chi that was as bright as jade floated on the broken sword, and quickly transformed into a gigantic lotus pattern. It was extremely dazzling. "King Kong!" the old sect leader bellowed. The lotus immediately turned golden. As the fire dragon rushed over, it was as if it had crashed into a steel plate. With a dong sound, its body stopped, unable to advance any further. This was the power of the lotus star sword art. At this moment, the lotus pattern was as sturdy as a diamond. But in the next second, a shadow suddenly rushed towards the old sect leader. Su Yun looked over, and his eyes immediately turned red. This person was Xiao Huailin. "It's not fighting alone." The corner of Xiao Huailin's mouth revealed a cold smile. His sword fiercely slashed towards the old sect leader's head. Only the heavens knew how fast it was. The old sect leader's cultivation was not ordinary, but he was injured. Although he had reacted, his body's reaction speed was much slower. He only saw his body move to the side, preparing to dodge, but his left arm did not have time to move, and was directly cut off by the sword. The old sect leader let out a muffled groan and fell from the sky. The golden lotus that was blocking the fire dragon also loosened. The old sect leader endured the pain and stood up. He looked at his severed left arm, only to discover that the wound was actually emitting flames. "This sword. It actually has such power," the old sect leader said in a deep voice. "It's not over yet." Xiao Huailin did not hold back at all. He rushed forward once again, and the fire dragon in the sky also broke through the golden lotus, cooperating with Xiao Huailin to smash towards the old sect leader. From the looks of it, it was going to kill the old sect leader. "Do you think he's fighting alone?" Suddenly, an angry shout rang out from the side. Several explosions rang out that pierced through the sky. The sky darkened, and a large amount of pitch-black clouds gathered together, forming a vortex. Following that, several bolts of lightning struck out, smashing straight beside the old sect leader. Dong 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 dong. The ground started to tremble crazily, and a large amount of dust flew up, completely engulfing the old sect leader's body. The dense and hazy dust filled the entire lotus flower field. A fierce aura instantly swept out in all directions like a wave. Xiao Huailin's heart turned cold. He felt that something was wrong. He immediately stopped and did not dare to rush forward again. However, the fire dragon did not retreat. It continued to sweep away everything in its path and fiercely charged towards the old sect leader. Roar! A furious roar mixed with an unquenchable anger suddenly came out from the thick dust. Everyone felt as if their eardrums were about to burst. The ground suddenly started to shake violently, like a small boat in a storm. Several incomparably huge figures rushed out from the dust, all of them like wolves and tigers as they charged towards the fire dragon, one after another huge palms facing the fire dragon. A might that was as heavy as a mountain spread throughout the entire Lotus Star Sword sect. Dong! The fire dragon's head was directly smashed by a huge iron fist, causing its entire body to sway. Before it could retaliate, a few other palms grabbed onto its slender and strong body, causing it to fall to the ground. Bang dong! The huge and blazing fire dragon fiercely fell to the ground. The ground immediately turned red, and countless houses were set ablaze. It struggled with all its might, but at this moment, there were 7 incomparably huge giants with astonishing strength surrounding it. The sudden terror caught this primordial vicious beast off guard. What is this? Xiao Huailin was startled, looking at the 7 giants that suddenly appeared. He himself did not manage to react. The old sect leader was even more surprised. He knew that this was definitely Su Yun's method. What a strong devil chi! These 7 giants are probably puppet equipment created by the true devil realm. However, the strength of each of these giants is above Su Yun's. How can Su Yun control such a powerful puppet equipment? And activating 7 of them at the same time? How did he do it? The old sect leader was stunned. He turned his head to look at Su Yun, but with just a glance, he was stunned. At the moment, Su Yun was already holding onto the sword with one hand, the sword tip pointing downwards, supporting his tottering body, while the other hand was activating the incantation, channeling chi. His face became even paler, beads of perspiration continuously dripping down. It was obvious that activating these 7 powerful giants had consumed the last of his profound strength. So this is the helper you summoned? There are quite a few of them. Xiao Huailin noticed Su Yun's side, and seeing his appearance, he immediately understood and sneered. Hearing that, Su Yun clenched his teeth and did not make a sound. Although the giant's aura was strong, Su Yun did not have much profound strength at the moment, and was unable to unleash their full strength. With his current injured body, being able to unleash 20 to 30% of the giant's strength was already incredible. Do you think my helper is some trash cat or dog? With just a few skeletons, you want to defeat my helper? You're too naive. Xiao Huailin sneered again and again. He extended his hand and snapped his fingers. It was unknown what spell or signal it was, but the fire dragon that was being suppressed by the 7 devil bone giants immediately let out an angry roar. The raging flames on its body immediately expanded by a circle. Following that, its huge body swung out, directly knocking away the surrounding devil bone giants. Its entire body soared into the sky, dancing in the air. The dragon flew to the 9 heavens. It circled a few times, looked down at the devil bone giant, opened its mouth and spat out a large amount of flames. The devil bone giant was baptized by the flames and let out angry roars. They leaped out of the sea of fire and grabbed onto the fire dragon to attack, but the fire dragon's body was incomparably hard, and their iron fists were completely useless against it. Even if the iron fists that were like a torrential storm landed on its body, it would be like a drizzle, not itching at all. Ha 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 ha. Seeing that, Xiao Huailin laughed complacently. The unwillingness in Su Yun's eyes grew stronger. But at this moment, he was already gasping for breath. His eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and he felt that his consciousness was getting weaker and weaker. He had already reached his limit. Forcefully activating such a move was simply too harsh for him. If he continued to activate it, it would indeed be as the old sect leader had said, the chi meridian would be damaged and his cultivation would drop. Was it going to end like this? Su Yun spat out a mouthful of turbid air, his heart filled with unwillingness. However, at this moment, a palm suddenly struck his back. The palm did not have much power, but when the palm came close to his back, a large amount of profound strength surged into his body like a tide. Su Yun was startled. He turned his head to look, only to see that the owner of the palm was the old sect leader. Chapter 587. The surging profound strength surged from his palm into his body. It was a type of extremely pure profound strength. It did not belong to the 5 main attributes of profound strength. It was more like a type of unorthodox profound strength. It was similar to spirit life chi, but its vitality was stronger than spirit life chi. When the spirit chi entered his body, Su Yun felt his dried-up body quickly swell up. His consciousness returned to normal, and he slowly became spirited. Su Yun, quickly stop, your injuries are already very serious. If you continue to activate it, your cultivation will definitely drop greatly. The old sect leader behind him urged the profound chi as he spoke in a low voice. But sect leader, if we don't fight with our lives on the line, do you think that person will let us go? Even the Black Hawk sect was destroyed by him. Would he still show mercy to us? Su Yun secretly clenched his teeth. You should go first. I will hold him back here. As long as you hold on for a while longer, when the experts of the Linglong Mountain arrive, you can join hands and surround him. Do not fight him head-on, if not it will only increase the number of casualties. This person's cultivation is probably even higher than mine. The old sect leader said in a deep voice. Circle? I also wish to circle around, but can I circle around now? Su Yun shook his head and sighed. However, since the old sect leader had already said so, it was not good for him to persist. But at this time, Xiao Huailin had already rushed over. He stared at Su Yun, the slender blood-red sword extended out like a venomous snake, causing the air to tremble violently. The sword force was astonishing. The sword edge seemed to contain thousands of troops and horses. It was valiant and spirited. Even if it was just a glance, it would not make one have the slightest thought of resisting. Seeing that, the old sect leader immediately let go of his sword and activated the Lotus Star sword art to block it. He only had one hand left, so it was impossible for him to continue channeling chi to Su Yun. But Su Yun already understood the old sect leader's intentions. He had a lot of energy in his body. Su Yun gathered his chi, pulled out the death sword, and released the power of the death sword. The power inside the death sword surged out like a raging river, and his body was once again filled with energy. The old sect leader blocked Xiao Huailin, while Su Yun continued to urge the 7 giants to restrain the fire dragon. At the moment, Su Yun was no longer as crazy as before. He only allowed the 7 giants to defend against the fire dragon's attack. Although they had split up, regardless of whether it was the old sect leader or Su Yun, they both felt that it was extremely strenuous. The fire dragon's strength was probably an entire grade higher than the giants. Unless Su Yun was at his peak, controlling the giants' movements, he might still be able to fight against the fire dragon, but now, he could only be completely suppressed by the other party. The fire dragon spat out flames that ignited half of the Lotus Star sword sect. The flames soared into the sky, as if it was the end of the world. Sect Master! At this time, chaotic shouts came from outside the lotus flowers, and a large number of figures rushed over, with Bu Ming in the lead. The experts of the Lotus Star sword sect had arrived. That's the one. That's the one who tried to kill the sect leader. Everyone, let's capture him together. The disciple who had led Xiao Huailin into the sect pointed at Xiao Huailin, who was fighting with the old sect leader, and shouted. When the group of people heard this, their anger soared to the heavens, and they all rushed forward. Seeing this, the old sect leader's expression changed drastically. He anxiously shouted, "What are you guys doing? Quickly leave, all those below the 3rd grade of Sky Spirit Master leave the Lotus Star Sword sect, quickly." However, the old sect leader's words did not have much effect this time. Sect leader, how can we be afraid again? Previously, when we were dealing with the Black Hawk sect, we could only be spectators. Today, this person is provoking our Lotus Star Sword sect. As members of the sect, how can we escape just like that? Bu Ming shouted. Many of the people present saw the fire dragon soaring in the sky and fighting with the giant. In fact, they already knew who this person was, but they were not afraid. If they were to be afraid now, how would they survive in the future? Sometimes, fear was a sign of certain death. Perhaps it was not the body that died, but the soul. There were purple lightning, sharp sword chi, and many pure white lotus flowers. The profound skill was like rain, crashing towards Xiao Huailin. Xiao Huailin, who was in the middle of a fierce battle with the old sect leader, was caught off guard and was directly struck by the profound skill. He was immediately beaten until his face was covered in dirt and fell down from the sky. He anxiously crawled up and looked at the people who had suddenly rushed out. He was immediately flustered and exasperated. You actually called so many people to deal with me. Cunning, too cunning. You are no different from the Black Hawk sect. Since that's the case, you will have to bear the wrath of my world's #1 sword. Xiao Huailin roared. The fiery red blade master cloth immediately released a ball of scorching flames. His entire body seemed to be engulfed by the fire. Humph, what big words you have there! The people of the Lotus Star Sword sect were unconvinced and continued to attack. When the profound skill from all directions collided with him again, all of them entered the flames released by Xiao Huailin's clothes and disappeared. What? Everyone was shocked. Imperial equipment. Seeing that, the old sect leader's face changed. To be able to absorb so many attacks and remain safe, the grade of this imperial equipment was definitely not low. With the help of the primordial vicious beasts and the protection of the imperial equipment, his own cultivation was also incomparably strong. Compared to the spirit cultivator of the Linglong Mountain, this kind of person could already be considered a supreme expert. Who the hell was this person? The old sect leader thought to himself. Whiz. Suddenly, Xiao Huailin instantly landed in front of the old sect leader, and with a slash, the sword body actually split into several sword images, and swallowed them whole. As the sword shadow approached the old sect leader, it spat out a 10-meter-long tongue of fire. The old sect leader did not have time to defend, and his chest was pierced by the tongue of fire, causing him to fall from the sky. Sect leader! Bu Ming shouted. He rushed forward and rushed towards Xiao Huailin. The corner of Xiao Huailin's mouth raised into a disdainful smile. He ignored the profound skill that was rushing towards him, and slashed towards Bu Ming. Clang! Bu Ming's sword that was smashed into 2 halves, the flames on the sword landed on his body, instantly igniting it. Bu Ming screamed miserably. He retreated a few steps. He activated the profound chi to extinguish the fire, but his own profound chi surged out of his body to resist the flames. Like an ant trying to shake a tree, there was no effect at all. Bu Ming screamed miserably, until the last bit of profound chi was used up. He was still unable to extinguish the flames, and in the end, he turned into ashes in the flames, dying miserably, not even leaving his soul behind. Protector Bu. The people of the Lotus Star Sword sect roared miserably. You bastard, I'm going to kill you! Some of the experts from the sects who were on good terms with Bu Ming were furious, and all of them rushed forward. But facing Xiao Huailin, these people could not hold on for more than a few rounds, and were killed by him. Come on! Come on! Do you think I will be afraid of your numbers? Xiao Huailin twisted his body as he waved the sword in his hand. The sword was like a spirit, leaping into the crowd, and waves of afterimages flickered in the crowd. It was extremely miraculous. These so-called experts of the Lotus Star Sword sect could not do anything about it. The stronger ones could still touch Xiao Huailin, but their attacks were all blocked by the Imperial equipment robe, and the weaker ones could not even touch the edge. Every few breaths of time, a person from the Lotus Star Sword sect would fall under Xiao Huailin's sword. His sword was extremely hot, and every time it struck a person, the terrifying temperature on the sword would burn the blood in the person's body. Those with higher cultivation could still use the profound chi to resist, but those with lower cultivation, even if they were to face a small injury, would immediately turn into a dried-up corpse. Seeing his disciples fall one by one, the old sect leader's expression became more and more serious. He coughed violently a few times, enduring his injuries. He raised the broken sword and rushed forward, releasing all of his qi, and directly knocked away the disciples who were fighting around Xiao Huailin. Some of the disciples who were about to be killed by Xiao Huailin were scattered by the old sect leader's qi, and saved their lives. "Your opponent is me," the old sect leader bellowed, the broken sword in his hand pulled out a pure white lotus, and rushed forward. When the lotus appeared, it immediately began to bloom. A vigorous life force and a mysterious concept wrapped around Xiao Huailin, and started to frantically devour his profound strength. But Xiao Huailin was not an ordinary person. He suddenly took a step forward, and thrusted his sword towards the ground. Soaring flames. Crash! A pillar of fire spewed out from under Xiao Huailin's feet. The pillar of fire appeared and burned the lotus into a golden light. The sect leader was sent flying. He spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood in the air, and when he fell to the ground, he was already breathing more than he was breathing. Sect leader. Su Yun's eyes turned red, the devil qi overflowed. He roared and rushed forward. "The current you can't even block a single finger of mine. How can you be my opponent? This sect only has this much strength. Why is it able to possess a treasure like the Lotus Star Sword? What a pity, what a pity! Leave it to me, and let me bring this sword to greater heights." Looking at the dying old sect leader, Xiao Huailin shook his head with a helpless look. "Bullshit!" Su Yun was furious. He took out the Lotus Star Sword from the sword sheath and stabbed it into the ground, roaring, "This is the Lotus Star Sword. If you have the ability, come and take it." "Su Yun, don't be rash, leave quickly. Leave this place. This person is able to destroy the Black Hawk sect by himself. His strength is probably extremely terrifying. You guys are definitely not his match." The old sect leader grabbed onto the clothes on Su Yun's chest and shouted weakly, "Sect leader, can't you see it clearly? He has already decided to destroy the Lotus Star Sword sect. Do you think there's any use for us to leave now?" Su Yun clenched his teeth, his eyes bloodshot. "Ha ha ha ha, that's right, all of you are bullying me with so many people. Beating me up is too despicable. In order to punish all of you for being despicable, you will all become my brother's food. It likes to devour souls, so none of you can even think of leaving today." Xiao Huailin laughed sinisterly. He stared at the crowd and said sinisterly, "How can you be so vicious?" The old sect leader's eyes widened as he said with all his might, "You guys are shameless first." Xiao Huailin snorted. He was no longer courteous, and continued to rush towards the crowd, raising his sword to kill. Killing people was like harvesting wheat. The people of the Lotus Star Sword sect could not stop him at all. Seeing that, Su Yun held onto the Lotus Star Sword tightly, clenched his teeth, and finally made a decision. He put down the old sect leader, and planned to rush over to fight with Xiao Huailin. But in the next second, the old sect leader grabbed onto Su Yun's arm. "Wait a minute, Su Yun, if you go over like this, you will only lose your life. You will definitely not be able to win against Xiao Huailin." The old sect leader said weakly and anxiously, "I have a way to let you defeat him. Just do as I say, okay? Don't be reckless." "Sect leader, you have a way?" Hearing that, Su Yun anxiously stopped and asked, "Sect leader, what method is it? Quickly tell me." Chapter 588. It's a good idea, but I can't do it alone, but you can. Su Yun, do as I say. As the old sect leader spoke, he pulled Su Yun and shouted weakly, "You first, help me up first." Hearing that, Su Yun immediately helped the old sect leader up. The old sect leader sat down cross-legged, raised his hands slightly, and placed them flat on his chest. He closed his eyes, as if he was meditating. The 3 bloody holes in his chest were still emitting smoke, and the bloody holes had already pierced through his chest. It was a miracle that the old sect leader was still alive. "Sit down." The old sect leader gasped for breath. Su Yun immediately did as he was told. "Close all of your spirit core, and empty all of the profound qi in your qi meridian," the old sect leader said again. Hearing that, Su Yun was startled. How can I do that, sect leader? Once I do that, my magic tools will definitely stop working and no one will be able to stop the fire dragon. At that time, the situation will only get worse. Don't say any more, quickly do it, the old sect leader said anxiously. Seeing that, Su Yun thought quickly, but very quickly, he decided to believe in the old sect leader's words, and immediately closed all of the spirit core in his body, stopping the production of the profound qi, and at the same time, forcing all of the profound qi out of his body. Without the supply of the profound qi, the giant's power began to fade. Concentrate and calm your mind. Empty your mind and don't think about it. Then, open the 4 acupoints of Heaven Valley, 4 Lotus, Tail of Desire, and Moon Wood. As the old sect leader spoke, he placed his right hand on Su Yun's chest. Su Yun immediately did as he was told. Dong 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 dong. At this time, a series of violent explosions came from the other side of the fire dragon, and the fire dragon fell from the sky, pressing down on one of the gigantic devil bone giants. The giant was directly pressed to the ground, no longer moving. A large amount of flames engulfed it, roasting its pale white body. Not to mention this giant, the other giants had also turned into statues and were completely motionless. At this moment, the fire dragon was like a wild horse that had escaped its reins. Without an opponent, it was completely unrestrained. It realized that the giants had already lost their threat, and immediately turned around, staring at the Lotus Star Sword sect people who were killed by Xiao Huailin, and then roared loudly, swaying its huge body, it rushed forward. When the people of the Lotus Star Sword sect saw this, their expressions changed drastically. Some of the timid ones could not even stand straight, let alone fight against the fire dragon. How could they possibly deal with such a terrifying beast? The fire dragon opened its mouth and spat at the crowd. The fiery red saliva fell into the crowd and directly swallowed dozens of people. Not even ashes were left. Rolling magma and flames began to spread. The scene was extremely terrifying. Seeing his disciples die one by one, the old sect master's sunken eyes were filled with grief. He closed his eyes, not daring to watch any longer. He could only use all his strength to finish what he had to do. He chanted an incantation in a low voice, and every single sentence that was difficult to pronounce floated into Su Yun's ears. Beneath the two of them, a pure white lotus rune appeared. The rune appeared and started to revolve quickly. An overflowing aura floated out. They were like vines, wrapping around Su Yun, drilling into his body, entering the Qi meridian and walking towards the sealed spirit core. The spirit core that had calmed down was circled by the aura, as though it had been reactivated, and could not help but open up. Su Yun felt that the aura was like a strange seed, germinating and growing in the spirit core in his body. And all of this happened in an instant. What kind of mystical profound skill was this, to have such an effect? Su Yun was secretly shocked. He opened his eyes and looked at the old sect leader in front of him. Suddenly, he realized that the old sect leader had suddenly aged by more than 10 years. Previously, he only looked like an old man, but now, he looked more like a person who was about to die of old age. His skin was like withered tree bark, dry and wrinkled, and his hair had also fallen off one by one. His previously snow-white hair was now dim and lusterless, and age spots had begun to appear, completely unlike his previous sage-like demeanor. Sect leader, what kind of profound technique is this? Su Yun felt that something was amiss and anxiously asked. It's the profound technique that saved the Lotus Star Sword sect. The old sect leader said indifferently, and as his voice fell, he suddenly retracted his hand that was covering Su Yun's chest, and with lightning speed, he dug towards his own chest. A thumping heart was taken out by the old sect leader. Su Yun was dumbstruck. This heart was not like an ordinary person's heart. It was pure white in color, and the entire heart was snow-white without a single flaw. It was so perfect that it was hard to believe. The old sect leader's expression was distorted, and a large amount of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He opened his eyes that were gradually becoming lifeless, stared at his heart, and suddenly crushed the heart in his hand. With a pring sound, the heart turned into powder, and with a fierce slap, he struck Su Yun's chest, and a burst of dense energy surged over like a tide, instantly spreading throughout Su Yun's entire body. Su Yun felt that the spirit core and chi meridian in his body were frantically rising. His internal organs, flesh and blood, were covered in a layer of pure white light, as though at this moment he was going to be reborn. His cultivation also began to soar. Sect leader, you. What are you doing? Su Yun opened his eyes wide and muttered. He felt as if his heart had gone blank. Although I have trained hard, and spent my entire life only to pursue the great Tao, but my aptitude is too poor, and my cultivation time is also too late. To this day, my cultivation is only at the Sky Spirit Master, and when I meet a supreme expert like Xiao Huailin, I am even more unable to fight with him, and I am unable to even protect my disciples. I am the sect leader, and I have truly failed in my duty. If I were to go to the underworld, I am afraid that I would not have the face to meet the previous sect leaders of the Lotus Star Sword sect, and even more so, I would not have the face to meet my master, so for the sake of the Lotus Star Sword sect, I can only do this. The old sect leader said weakly. His voice was like a mosquito. Su Yun. Just now, 3 of my main chi meridians had already been shattered, and the flames of Xiao Huailin's sword had even burned more than half of the spirit core in my body. The current me is not his match at all. So, in order to save the Lotus Star Sword sect, I can only place my hopes on you now. You have all of my profound strength in your body. I do not hope that you can defeat Xiao Huailin. At least, delay him, and persevere until the experts of the Linglong Mountain come to save him. As the old sect leader spoke, the hand that was pressing down on Su Yun's chest powerlessly drooped down, the last bit of chi leaked out, and then there was no more movement. Like a statue, he sat cross-legged in front of Su Yun, not moving at all. Even his soul did not leak out. The heart that had been crushed just now contained everything about the old sect leader, including his soul. The old sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword had completely passed away this time. Su Yun stared with his eyes wide open, his heart beating even faster. At this moment, he felt that all the blood in his body was about to boil, about to burn his blood vessels to ashes, about to melt his body. The wound there had already healed, and at the moment, the power contained in Su Yun's body was even stronger than his peak state. The current him was at least able to fight against a 5th-stage Sky Spirit Master cultivator. Although he did not know how long this would last, it was enough. He already had the capital to fight. Old sect leader, rest in peace. Su Yun will definitely protect the Lotus Star Sword sect for you. Su Yun kowtowed to the old sect leader, then stood up and turned to look at the battle. The fire dragon and Xiao Huailin were like 2 gigantic black holes, crazily devouring the lives of the people from the Lotus Star Sword sect. Everywhere they passed, there was only a patch of red, the red of blood, the red of the flames. Miserable screams and angry roars could be heard everywhere. But now the angry roar had one more sentence. Xiao Huailin. Su Yun's eyes suddenly turned red. The devil chi around his body was like a flood, gushing out. In the blink of an eye, it had dyed the entire sky. The death sword in his hand was trembling even more crazily, as though it was ignited by the anger in Su Yun's heart. A powerful sword might was released, straight towards the fire dragon's dragon might. The aura began to change. Roar. The fire dragon felt the might coming from the death sword, and felt threatened. It released a ruthless roar in an attempt to suppress the might of the death sword. But at that moment, Su Yun had already rushed over. That aura could simply topple mountains and overturn the seas. Xiao Huailin, who was in the midst of killing, did not have the time to defend himself, and was stabbed in the shoulder by Su Yun, who was rushing over. His entire body was pushed out of the crowd, out of the group of lotus flowers, and in the end, the two of them smashed into the back mountain of the Lotus Star Sword sect. With a dong sound, the back of the mountain shook, and several huge cracks appeared on the mountain. The death sword contained devil chi and evil chi, and crazily tore towards Xiao Huailin's body. It was just that Xiao Huailin's imperial equipment was extremely extraordinary. Even so, the death sword was unable to pierce through it, and on the contrary, the flames released by the flame cloak started to roast Su Yun. "We were fighting well, but you had to come over and interfere. How boring." Xiao Huailin had a helpless look on his face, as though he did not take Su Yun seriously. But very quickly, his expression became startled. Your aura. It's different from before." "Wait, this aura? Isn't this the aura of that old fellow? Could it be that he passed on his power to you?" Xiao Huailin said in shock. "This kind of secret technique is something that very few people know, and there are very few people who are willing to do so. I never thought that you would actually obtain such a fortuitous encounter, and obtain that old fellow's profound strength. Incredible, incredible, but—" Xiao Huailin suddenly grinned. "Do you think you can defeat me like this?" With that, he raised his sword and slashed towards Su Yun's head. But in the next second, clang! A pure white sword was pulled out by Su Yun, blocking Xiao Huailin's sword. An even more ferocious flame erupted from the white sword, engulfing Xiao Huailin. Tribulation Fire Sword. The Iron Mountain flames were completely released. One black and one white, the two swords were like two supports, firmly suppressing Xiao Huailin, the terrifying sword chi surrounding his body tightly. Imperial equipment? Although Xiao Huailin looked relaxed on the surface, the Imperial equipment would consume his own profound strength to block the damage. Su Yun was well aware of this point. Wasn't his 7th-tier Imperial equipment the same? No matter how powerful a Imperial equipment was, there would always be a moment when it would be broken. Su Yun did not doubt this at all. Chapter 589. The temperature of this sword is so high. Xiao Huailin stared at the Tribulation Fire Sword with his eyes wide open, his face full of shock. He wanted to blast Su Yun away, but realized that Su Yun's strength this time was extremely shocking. Although Xiao Huailin was confident that he could blast his opponent away with one sword strike, but in his current state, he was unable to do so. After all, Su Yun was attacking him from 2 points, and his profound energy was forced to disperse. A portion of the profound energy was used to maintain the Imperial equipment on his body, while the other portion was concentrated on the sword in his hand. The power of this black sword was extraordinary. If he relaxed the supply of profound energy to the Imperial equipment, he would probably be pierced by the sword. Xiao Huailin thought. He stared at Su Yun for a moment, and decided to use brute force. He secretly gathered his strength, and slowly moved forward. Su Yun, who was using his sword to block Xiao Huailin, was also slowly pushed away. When Xiao Huailin saw this, he suddenly laughed complacently. "Just based on this, you still can't beat me." As his voice fell, he suddenly turned the sword in his hand, and the slender blood-red sword immediately released a blazing aura. The moment this aura touched the tribulation fire, it was like thunder that had opened the floodgates, and immediately exploded. The two of them had no choice but to separate from each other. But Xiao Huailin was not affected by the impact of the explosion. He turned around and rushed towards Su Yun. His terrifying speed was close to teleportation, and with a thought, he had already appeared in front of Su Yun. Xiao Huailin waved his sword again. This sword strike seemed to have surpassed all of his previous sword swings. Su Yun instinctively reacted, and raised his Tribulation Fire Sword to block. But just as the Tribulation Fire Sword was about to block the terrifying Slender Sword, the Slender Sword split again, transforming into 6 afterimages that attacked together. "What?" Su Yun's face paled. This sword strike, this speed, could be described as his granddaughter-in-law's myriad changes. Xiao Huailin stared at Su Yun complacently, and when he saw Su Yun's incomparably shocked expression, his complacency became even stronger. However, with a clang, the terrifying slender sword that was slashing over suddenly stopped. Xiao Huailin was startled. He looked over, only to see that his sword was blocked by a layer of grayish-white qi cover. Imperial equipment? Xiao Huailin was stunned. Do you think you're the only one with the Imperial equipment? Su Yun said coldly. He removed the flag and slashed with his sword. Although Su Yun's speed could not compare to Xiao Huailin's, this fierce attack made Xiao Huailin unable to care about anything else. As such, Su Yun's goal had been achieved. As long as he could restrain Xiao Huailin, he could wait for the experts of Xiao Huailin and the experts to arrive. He would not be able to arrive. As long as he could restrain Xiao Huailin and wait for the experts of the Linglong Mountain to arrive, then he would have nowhere to run. At that time, just based on the fact that he ignored the rules of the Linglong Mountain, destroyed the Black Hawk sect, and attacked the Lotus Star Sword sect, it would be enough to sentence him to death. Xiao Huailin also used his fast sword, but his speed was not enough to give him a huge advantage in this fight. The two of them fought for more than 100 breaths of time, only to see the sword qi surging, the explosion caused by the collision of the sword blades. The entire mountain top was flattened by the surging sword qi. The battle was extremely intense. Xiao Huailin seemed to know that continuing to fight with Su Yun would only be disadvantageous to him. He immediately shouted, as though he was sending a signal to the fire dragon. The fire dragon roared, it swung its slender and strong body, dancing in the air, flying towards Su Yun, the fire dragon's killing intense sword as it rushed towards Su Yun. The dense qi was like the sky covering Su Yun's heart. If Xiao Huailin and the fire dragon worked together, even if Su Yun and the old sect leader's cultivation were to be put together, they would definitely not be a match for him. After all, the destructive power of the fire dragon was even greater than Xiao Huailin's. Su Yun had been waiting for the fire dragon to attack for a long time. His eyes suddenly flashed with a red light, the evil qi on his body suddenly disappeared, the devil qi overflowed, and rushed towards his arms in a whirlpool. What a powerful devil qi! Xiao Huailin was secretly shocked. He also became vigilant, worried that Su Yun would use some terrifying profound skill. However, Su Yun did not make much of a move. The ones who were acting strangely were the 7 devil bone giantess. The 7 statue-like giants moved once again. They stood on the ground, rushed out of the raging flames, and quickly rushed towards the fire dragon. The ground trembled as the 7 giants trampled on it. However, the 7 giants did not attack the fire dragon. Instead, as they continued to run, their gigantic, pale, and towering bodies began to slowly gather together. Every part of their bodies released a scorching light, and a dense devil qi leaked out. The parts of each giant that shone were different. Some had markings on their foreheads, some had markings on their chests, some had markings on their arms, some had markings on their legs, and every part was different. The devil qi turned into a vast and boundless thick chain, linking together and finally forming a whole, tightly binding the 7 giants together. Long Bone Heroic Spirit. With the help of Changgu, the 7 Devil Bone Holy Guards could become one. In fact, they were originally one body, and were originally taken from the same body as the Holy Bone Demon Guard. This chain merely restored it to its original state. When the giants were tied together by the chains formed from the devil qi, their bodies spewed out a large amount of devil qi. This devil qi was like a cocoon, wrapping around the 7 giants, and the devil qi continued to leak out, causing the cocoon to grow bigger and bigger, more and more majestic. When it stopped growing, the cocoon was already as tall as Mount Tai. I'm afraid everyone in the Linglong Mountain could see its grand and heroic appearance. The Lotus Star Sword sect was only the size of a few feet beneath its feet. When the cocoon appeared, Su Yun's body once again felt a sense of powerlessness, as if he was peeling off a cocoon. He gritted his teeth and persevered, not daring to relax in the slightest. The cocoon hatched very quickly. After a few seconds, it immediately loosened. The chains formed from the devil chi slowly loosened. They broke one by one, disintegrated, and finally dissipated. The cocoon also slowly dissipated, like sand blown by the wind, gradually flying away into the distance. At this moment, a huge creature walked out from the cocoon. At this moment, everyone in the Linglong Mountain was stunned. What kind of majestic existence was this? The ancient demon god was probably calling him such a majestic giant, right? Its entire body was pale white and made of bone. Its head was as large as a mountain, with 2 horns on its head. It had 7 eyes, 3 on the left and right, and 1 on its forehead, all of which were pitch red in color. It had 6 arms, each of which was thick and sturdy. Its huge shoulders were large enough to build a city, and there were bony spikes growing out of them. The bony spikes were incomparably sharp and abnormally large. However, compared to the bony spikes, the pair of terrifyingly huge bone wings on its back was truly unforgettable. When the bony wings spread out, it was like a koan pung spreading its wings, covering the sky and the earth. The moment it appeared, it gave off an unparalleled aura that could break through the world and suppress the earth. It was as if everything in the world was an ant in its eyes. The hegemon of the world was nothing more than this. Devil Bone Spirit. Su Yun stared. He had spent an astonishing amount of profound chi to activate the last imprint of the Devil Bone Holy Guard, the imprint given by Chang Gu. If not for the help of the old sect leader, he would never have been able to fuse the 7 Devil Bone Giants together. In front of the Devil Bone Spirit, the huge fire dragon was just like a small snake. The dragon might emitted from its body was not enough to affect the Devil Bone Spirit. What the hell is this thing? Xiao Huailin stared at the Devil Bone Spirit in shock, and cried out involuntarily. The current him no longer had the confidence and complacency from before, and all that was left was shock and hesitation. Taking advantage of his absent-mindedness, Su Yun immediately turned and leaped backwards, retreating towards the gigantic Devil Bone Spirit. The Devil Bone Spirit stretched out his terrifying palm that covered the sky, grabbed onto Su Yun, and then placed him on his shoulder. This was the shoulder of a true giant. Su Yun stood on the giant's shoulder, the strong wind blowing his cloak. He looked down at Xiao Huailin, his blood-red eyes filled with endless killing intent. The devil chi danced in the air. Kill! Su Yun coldly gave the order to the Devil Bone Spirit. Instantly, the Devil Bone Spirit moved again. It opened its hand like a 5-finger mountain. It covered Xiao Huailin, who was at the other side, its terrifying palm pressing down. It was as if the sky had collapsed. What the hell is this? Xiao Huailin retreated a few steps. He raised his head and looked at the palm. He tried to use the profound energy to resist, but at that moment, he realized that the strength of the gigantic object was not inferior to his in the slightest. If the previous Devil Bone Giant's strength was completely built on the foundation of Su Yun's own cultivation, then this Devil Bone Spirit was built on the foundation of Enmo and Chang Gu's cultivation. The 2 peerless experts of the true Devil sect were not people that ordinary people could compare to. Roar! The fire dragon rushed over and struck the palm of the gigantic palm in an attempt to stop it from falling, but the power of the palm was simply unimaginable. When the palm pressed down, the fire dragon was directly smashed into the ground, and even Xiao Huailin was suppressed to the ground. The ground was completely shattered, and the huge force completely collapsed the mountain top of the Lotus Star Sword sect. All the houses were destroyed, and the scene was a mess. The people of the Lotus Star Sword sect were all thrown into a mess. They could not even stand steadily. Some of them were even sent flying, and the towns that were closer to the Lotus Star Sword sect were also affected, causing the entire world to be shocked. No one stopped Su Yun. Su Yun himself would never stop. If he did not kill Xiao Huailin, the hatred in his heart would not be appeased. Roar! The Devil Bone Spirit released a roar that resounded through the 9 heavens. He extended his palm once again, and extended it towards the broken ground, grabbing Xiao Huailin, who was even smaller than an ant, holding him in his palm. He crazily crushed him. The powerful force and devil qi were like a meat grinder, crazily killing Xiao Huailin. Xiao Huailin completely gave up on attacking, and focused all of his strength on the imperial equipment on his body, using it to block the devil bone spirit's attack. The fire dragon broke out of the ground and spat out a torrential flame towards the devil bone spirit. The flame was like a sea of fire, baptizing his enormous body. However, the devil bone spirit was fine. The strength of this heroic spirit body had probably already surpassed that of an existence of the Sky Spirit Master. The people of the Lotus Star Sword sect were all stunned. All of them had stunned expressions on their faces. To them, this scene was no less than Pangu's creation of the heavens and earth. It was believed that everyone present would never be able to forget this magnificent and vast scene in their lives. The existence of the giant and the powerful strength it displayed had completely subverted their understanding of the strong in their hearts. In the distance, a large layer of dense clouds quickly floated towards the Lotus Star Sword sect. These people were led by the strongest force in the Linglong Mountain, the Feather Moon Pavilion. After receiving the urgent message from the Lotus Star Sword sect, everyone responded, and very quickly, there were over 10,000 strong warriors rushing over. All of them had at least the third stage of the Sky Spirit Master. It could be said to be a gathering of heroes. However, when this group of people approached the Lotus Star Sword sect, the giant that appeared caused everyone to uncontrollably stop in their tracks. Chapter 590. This. What is this? Feather Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master Yenwen frowned as he watched. As the leader of the strongest power in the Linglong Mountain, Yenwen would usually not go out to capture criminals who violated the rules of the mountain. However, today was different. This criminal had wiped out an entire sect. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could contend against. Sending ordinary spirit cultivators would only be sending them to their death. The experts present were not only the pavilion master of the Feather Moon Pavilion, but also the sect leader of the Tsanghui sect, the sect leader of the Qin Song Mountain, and so on. Everyone stood on the clouds formed from qi and stared ahead, their faces filled with seriousness. Is he an enemy or a friend? Qin Song Mountain's sect leader Zhang Luquang said in a low voice. Maybe he's a friend and not an enemy. The Tsanghui senior from the Tsanghui sect said in a low voice. Why do you think so? Zhang Luquang asked. The old Tsanghui senior, who was dressed in blue, extended the staff in his hand and pointed in that direction. He said indifferently, the fire dragon has been suppressed. With that said, everyone looked over anxiously, only to see that the fire dragon that was spitting flames at the giant was grabbed by the giant with one hand, and was also crazily crushed. The giant had 6 arms, and the qi on each arm could easily tear apart all existences below the Sky Spirit Master. Even those above the Sky Spirit Master would find it difficult to contend against this qi and power, so the giant's strength was simply invincible. Such a terrifying existence caused the faces of everyone present to sink. Pavilion Master Yenwen, in your opinion, what should we do now? Zhang Luquang retracted his gaze and turned to the middle-aged man in a luxurious robe, Yenwen, and asked. Ask about the situation, then act according to the circumstances. Yenwen said, the message came from the Lotus Star Sword sect, and this place also belongs to the Lotus Star Sword sect. Quickly send someone to invite the old sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword sect over and ask him about it. All right. Zhang Luquang nodded, then turned and said a few words to the people beside him. Very quickly, a few spirit cultivators flew down. After a while, a few people from the Lotus Star Sword sect followed the spirit cultivator and flew over. The leader was the chief elite of the Lotus Star Sword sect, Hua Tianwu, but the current Hua Tianwu had one of his arms broken, and there were several sword wounds and burn marks on his body. His qi was extremely weak, and if not for his profound cultivation, these injuries would have been enough to take his life. Hua Tianwu was brought up. He anxiously walked in front of Yan Wen and the rest, knelt down on one knee, and said anxiously, Hua Tianwu pays his respects to Pavilion Master Yan, pays his respects to the various sect masters, sect leader, sect leader, sect leader. I hope that everyone can quickly send experts to help my sect's protector Su. Kill Xiao Huailin. Protector Su? Xiao Huailin? Zhang Luquang, Songhui Venerable and the rest looked at each other in confusion. Hua Jingrui, stand up and speak. Don't be anxious. I only rushed over after receiving the news, so I don't know much about it. Yan Wen helped Hua Tianwu up. Tell me about the situation, and also, why don't I see your sect leader? Hearing this question, Hua Tianwu's eyes suddenly became filled with grief and indignation. He clenched his fists tightly, his teeth almost breaking, and said hatefully, Sect leader, he. The sect leader is already dead. He was killed by Xiao Huailin. The old sect leader is dead? When everyone heard this, they went into an uproar. Some people were surprised, but most of them revealed expressions of helplessness and sadness. Songhui Venerable and the rest shook their heads. It was likely that many people would find this news hard to accept. I never thought that the old sect leader would have already passed away. We were still too late. Yan Wen sighed and continued. Hua Jingrui, you said that the old sect leader was killed by Xiao Huailin, then, who is this Xiao Huailin? This person is the thief who destroyed the Black Hawk sect. Hua Tianwu said with both grief and anger. I don't know where this person came from. He came to my sword sect to meet with the sect leader, but he carried out an assassination. His cultivation is extremely high. He has the protection of the imperial equipment, and he even has the help of the ancient vicious beasts. His methods are extremely high. We are not his match. The old sect leader was previously injured, and fought with the experts of the Black Hawk sect for a few days. The profound Qi was consumed too much, and he took advantage of the opportunity to kill him. So that's how it is. Yan Wen nodded and turned to look at the other side. At that moment, the giant's palm had already been pushed away by Xiao Huailin, but Xiao Huailin was not feeling well. The flames on his fiery red robe were already extremely weak, and Xiao Huailin's face was extremely pale, as though he was at the end of his tether, and the fire dragon was forced by the giant's other palms to the point where it was difficult for him to protect himself, and was in a sorry state. The initiative to fight was completely in the hands of the giant. On the giant's shoulder, the man in the black robe was forming hand seals, the devil Qi was wreaking havoc, and the giant's aura became even stronger. Then, who is this person? Yan Wen finally asked the question that everyone wanted to know the answer to. Him? Hua Tianwu looked at Su Yun, his eyes flashing with confusion and respect, and said seriously, He is my sect's new protector. His name is Su Yun. He is taking over the position of Protector Qing Wenlu, and was personally appointed by the sect leader. If not for Protector Su stepping forward in time, I'm afraid that the Lotus Star Sword sect would have already followed in the footsteps of the Black Hawk sect, and would no longer exist. Everyone's hearts trembled, and that Songhui Sr. was even more shocked. This person is actually your sword sect's protector? When did your sword sect have such a terrifying expert? No one could see through Su Yun's cultivation, but that was not important. What was important was that the giant's aura was something that none of them could compare to. If the Lotus Star Sword sect had such an expert, then the Lotus Star Sword sect's position in the Linglong Mountain would also rise. I've never heard of this Su Yun. Where did he come from? Zhang Luquang asked again. It is said that he is an important minister of the Realm Lord. Fellow sect leaders, if there is anything, Tianwu will explain it to all of you later. Now that Protector Su is injured, I am afraid that he will not be able to hold on for long. I hope that fellow sect leaders can quickly make a move and help me take down this thief, Xiao Huailin, and return my Lotus Star Sword sect to peace. Hua Tianwu said anxiously as he kowtowed. Seeing that, Yen Wen and the rest realized that their side had indeed asked too many questions, and now was not the time to talk nonsense. Yen Wen nodded towards the experts from the various sects. Everyone understood, and immediately rushed out, attacking Xiao Huailin together. Without any politeness, all sorts of profound skill flew towards Xiao Huailin. The surrounding space rippled, and the exquisite profound strength whistled through the air. Xiao Huailin sensed it, turned to look, and broke out in cold sweat. Although his methods were heaven-defying, but at the moment, he was truly outnumbered. If not for Su Yun and the giant, facing these experts, he would still have the strength to fight, but at the moment, he was being suppressed by Su Yun. How could he have any leeway to retaliate? Bullying with numbers. Bullying with numbers. Are the people of your Linglong Mountain so shameless, so boring? Good, good. This time, I will let you all go. In the future, I, the #1 sword in the world, Xiao Huailin, will find you all to settle the score. Xiao Huailin released an angry roar. His palm smashed onto the giant's palm, releasing a circle of fire profound chi, shaking off the palm. He then took the opportunity to push his speed to the limit, flying far away. You want to run? Did I tell you to run? Song Hui Sr. snorted, his voice spread out, causing Xiao Huailin's chi and blood to churn. The chi meridian trembled like a string. His body became unstable, and he almost fell from the sky. This method was shockingly able to ignore the Imperial equipment. If you dare to cause trouble in the Linglong Mountain, then don't even think about escaping. It's better if you come back. Feather Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master Yen Wen said lightly. He extended his hand forward, and a mysterious power that was close to space erupted from his palm, causing the air to tremble, distorting like waves, and Xiao Huailin's body suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of Yen Wen. His neck was tightly gripped by Yen Wen, and it was difficult for him to struggle. What a powerful method! Everyone cried out, as expected of the supreme expert at the peak of the Linglong Mountain. Damn it! Xiao Huailin struggled for a while, then scolded Yen Wen angrily. Then, he quickly waved his hand, extended 2 fingers, and pointed at his chest. Bang! An intense explosion suddenly sounded out, engulfing Xiao Huailin and Yen Wen. Pavilion Master! Seeing this, the people from Feather Moon Pavilion anxiously rushed over and shouted. I'm fine, don't worry. His voice floated up, and Yen Wen's figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. Seeing that Yen Wen was fine, the people from Feather Moon Pavilion relaxed. I never thought that this person would be so ruthless. He would actually detonate the Imperial equipment. Although his Imperial equipment was not destroyed, it must have suffered quite a bit of damage. I'm afraid its grade will drop greatly. Yen Wen frowned. Looking at Xiao Huailin again, he did not know why, but he had already rushed dozens of kilometers away. His appearance was no longer as carefree and unrestrained as before. Now, he was in a sorry state. His hair was disheveled, and his long robe was in tatters. Many parts of his skin had split open, and blood was seeping out. His aura was weak, and the blood-red thin sword in his hand was dim. Seeing that the other experts would not let him go, they surrounded him, and Xiao Huailin fell into the encirclement again. Xiao Huailin suffered a fierce attack, and found it hard to hold on. The surrounding profound skill and blades were about to drown him. Was he at a dead end? Seeing that, Su Yun, who was on the giant's shoulder, revealed an unquenchable anger in his blood-red eyes. He kept the 1,000 swords, the Death Sword and the immortal mystical Scarlet Blood Sword, and only held onto one sword. Tribulation Fire. The injuries caused by the Tribulation Fire could not be recovered in this lifetime. If he wanted to kill, he had to kill him completely, and not let Xiao Huailin have the chance to make a comeback. Staring at the red figure in the crowd, Su Yun took a step forward and descended from the sky. With one hand holding onto the sword tip pointed straight at Xiao Huailin, who was in the crowd, and the remaining profound strength in his body opened up with all his might. In an instant, the sudden white light was like a meteor falling to the ground, dazzling and resplendent. At the tip of the blazing and mystical longsword, a pure white and beautiful lotus pattern appeared. "Xiao Huailin, remember this sword!" Su Yun roared, the sword tip falling down. The incomparably powerful might shocked Xiao Huailin, causing him to suddenly turn his body and raise his sword to block. Heart-breaking sword art. Su Yun took the opportunity to activate the sprite's shadow, causing the Tribulation Fire Sword's sword power to increase by several times. The violent sword force dispersed all of the opponent's profound strength, sweeping through everything before it, unstoppable. Xiao Huailin could not hold on any longer, the blood sword was blasted away, the Tribulation Fire Sword pierced into his chest. The Imperial equipment could no longer stop the terrifying Tribulation Fire Sword, and was directly pierced through. The blazing sword pierced through Xiao Huailin's chest. Lotus Star Sword Art. Crack. Su Yun activated the profound chi with a thought, he shouted. Dong. Xiao Huailin's chest immediately exploded, like a blooming lotus. His skin and bones rolled out, and a huge transparent hole appeared in his chest. Chapter 591. One sword to break it. This sword strike could be said to be mystical, but not powerful. It had to be known that Xiao Huailin's profound chi was already very little, and after giving birth to the Devil Bone Spirit, most of the power that the old sect leader had given him had already been used up. Xiao Huailin's own cultivation was not only at the third stage of the Sky Spirit Master. He had used some kind of technique to tamper with his cultivation, which gave people the illusion that he was only at the third stage of the Sky Spirit Master. His cultivation was definitely stronger, and to break through a body that was many levels higher than his own, it was extremely difficult. Even if Xiao Huailin was at the end of his rope, it was still difficult to do. But now Su Yun had given him a fatal blow, all because of the mystical Lotus Star Sword Art, and all because of his thoughts. When he activated the Lotus Star Sword Art, Su Yun felt as if his brain had been stripped of all thinking abilities. It was completely blank, and his state of mind was terrifyingly calm. He did not feel any grief towards the old sect leader's tragic death, nor did he feel any hatred towards Xiao Huailin. The profound chi flowed back, the spirit core shone brightly, and lotus patterns appeared. It was extremely mystical. The old sect leader had once said that the main motivation for thinking came from one's thoughts and state of mind. After eliminating everything else, one would begin to persevere in what one wished to do at the moment. Using the profound strength as a medium, one would use the sword techniques to move one's line of sight. This was a powerful sword technique that transcended ordinary sword techniques, or rather, it could not be completely called a sword technique, because it did not have any moves. When his state of mind and thoughts were completely empty, Su Yun's mind and heart could not help but have a crazy thought. Destroy Xiao Huailin. His chest exploded, blood splattered out, his internal organs were shattered, and Xiao Huailin's body directly fell from the sky. He fell to the ground. Seeing that, Su Yun did not give up. He raised the Tribulation Fire Sword and rushed forward again, the sword tip sweeping out, wanting to cut open his flesh and blood and shatter his soul. Only when his soul was slashed would Xiao Huailin truly die. Otherwise, if he met a supreme expert to reconstruct his body, he would still be able to revive, so if he wanted to kill him, he had to kill him thoroughly. However, right at that moment, a ray of white light suddenly shot out from Xiao Huailin's neck, surrounding his body. This light was like a transparent membrane that tightly surrounded his body. After the light appeared, a large amount of light surged towards the broken part of his chest. It quickly transformed into transparent organs, bones, and flesh. Not good. Yanwen frowned, his body moved, and instantly appeared in front of Xiao Huailin, with one hand forming a finger. He quickly pointed at the thin film that was wrapped around Xiao Huailin. Dong! A huge ripple of profound energy erupted from the thin membrane, causing the void to tremble. All the experts in the surroundings were forced to retreat. The thin membrane also shook for a while, and cracks appeared on it, but it was not torn apart. Seeing that, Su-yun rushed over. The tribulation fire hacked at it, but it still only caused cracks and did not break it. Protector Su, this must be some kind of protective magic treasure. I am afraid that this person called Xiao Huailin is the son or disciple of some supreme expert. This protective magic treasure is definitely not an ordinary item. It must be bestowed by an incredible sage. It is difficult to break. He wants to escape. Let's quickly cut it open and capture him. Yan Jin exclaimed softly. Su-yun nodded and fiercely waved his hand, but before he could do much, Xiao Huailin, who was wrapped in a thin film, suddenly opened his eyes and quickly activated his qi to move. At this moment, he seemed to have received the support of the protective magic treasure and was able to unleash a lot more profound qi. In the blink of an eye, his body had already landed tens of kilometers away, avoiding the sharp light. However, the experts present all had extraordinary cultivations, profound techniques that could reach the heavens. Almost at the same time Xiao Huailin dodged, there were a total of 7 people who instantly landed around him and launched their attack. However, before the 7 of them could move, a blazing heat had already assaulted them. It was the fire dragon. It tried its best to break free from the devil bone spirit's restraints and rushed towards Xiao Huailin. Its speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived beside Xiao Huailin, and then attacked the experts around him without caring about anything else. The fire dragon swung its tail, causing flames to spread in all directions. The experts were not allowed to approach, but Xiao Huailin took advantage of this time to turn around and escape, not caring about the life or death of the fire dragon. Seeing that, everyone wanted to chase after him, but the fire dragon was guarding that place with all its might. Anyone who approached would be greeted by its hysterical attack. With the fire dragon palace behind him, Xiao Huailin successfully escaped. Su-yun wanted to urge the devil bone spirit to intercept Xiao Huailin, but just as he was about to give the order to the devil bone spirit, his vision went black. Before he could even react, he fell from the sky and fainted, while the incomparably huge devil bone spirit turned into sand and dissipated into the air. The profound qi was exhausted. Quick, bring Protector Su down for treatment. The pale-faced Hua Tianwu anxiously shouted towards the people of Lotus Star Sword Sect. Hearing that, an expert immediately rushed over to catch Su-yun. A few people from Lotus Star Sword Sect rushed over, not daring to hesitate. They supported Su-yun and retreated. The scene was a mess. Yan-won and the rest did not give up. A group of people stayed behind to fight the fire dragon, while the existences led by Yan-won chased after Xiao Huailin. Xiao Huailin had the protective magic treasure to prolong his life. Although his chest was pierced, he still did not die. He continued to run. His speed was extremely fast. Other than Yan-won, Senior Tsanghuai and the other top existences who could still keep up with his pace, the others were left far behind. Not even their shadows could be seen. Xiao Huailin had the magic treasure, so he naturally would not be killed so easily. He took out an eyeball-sized pearl and threw it behind him. At the same time, he shot out a ray of profound qi, hitting the pearl. The pearl was silent for 3 breaths of time, and then exploded, shooting out balls of smoke. When Yan-won and the rest got close to the smoke, the profound qi in their bodies immediately dropped crazily, as though they were being devoured by the smoke. Disperse! Yan-won formed a hand seal and bellowed. The profound strength spread out in all directions like ripples, pushing the smoke back. When he looked at Xiao Huailin again, he had already disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. Damn it, that brat ran away, Zhang Luquang said angrily. This person's cultivation is not ordinary, and his entire body is filled with treasures. He even has the help of an ancient vicious beast like the fire dragon. I'm afraid he's not an ordinary person. I wonder if there's anyone capable behind him. Senior Tsanghuai said worriedly. In fact, when they were fighting Xiao Huailin just now, although everyone looked like they were surrounding him, no one dared to kill him. Xiao Huailin's strength was not ordinary, and he was so arrogant that he came to the Linglong Mountain to cause trouble. Some people were worried that they would offend the Lord by killing Xiao Huailin, so they held back, hoping that others would capture or kill Xiao Huailin, which was why they allowed Xiao Huailin to escape. Otherwise, with so many experts from the Linglong Mountain attacking together, the injured Xiao Huailin would definitely not be able to leave. Although they had come together, their hearts were different. Yan Wen and Senior Tsanghuai understood what everyone was thinking, but none of them pointed it out. We should immediately give the order to chase after Xiao Huailin in the entire mountain, and also strictly set up defenses around the Linglong Mountain, forbidding anyone with unknown origins from entering the Linglong Mountain. It would be best if we can capture Xiao Huailin, and if we can't, we must chase him away, so that he doesn't dare to take half a step into my Linglong Mountain. Yan Wen said in a low voice. That's right. Everyone nodded. Just then, many spirit cultivators flew over from behind. Seeing that, Yan Wen immediately went over. Pavilion Master Yan Wen, have you caught that madman? A sect leader cupped his fists towards Yan Wen and asked. He was lucky enough to escape. Yan Wen shook his head. As the sound of his voice faded, everyone revealed looks of disappointment. Has the fire dragon been destroyed? Not yet. The person shook his head and said, We were in the middle of a fierce battle with the fire dragon, but it suddenly disappeared. Our methods were all in vain. How miraculous! Disappeared? How is that possible? This is absolutely true. Everyone saw it. What's going on? Everyone was puzzled. Yan Wen rubbed his chin and thought for a while, then said, Maybe we guessed wrong. Maybe this fire dragon is not a fierce beast that Xiao Huailin captured. Maybe it is just a magic tool that he summoned. A magic tool? The few of them looked at each other in dismay. Suddenly, they thought of another existence that possessed an extremely powerful magic tool. It was the Lotus Star Sword Sect Protector, who was unconscious and had suddenly arrived, Su Yun. Whiz! A fiery red figure crashed into a lush green forest. With a bang, the figure landed on the ground, creating a huge crater. Blazing flames splashed in all directions, igniting the surroundings and scaring away some of the nearby birds. The figure lay on the ground and gasped for breath for a while. Then, he supported himself with his sword and stood up. I never thought that there would be so many experts in the Linglong Mountain, and that guy wearing a black cloak. Damn it. Relying on their numbers to bully me, I must take revenge, Su Yun, right? I, Xiao Huailin, will definitely not let you off, Xiao Huailin said while gasping for breath. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. At this moment, the organs on his chest that were formed by the transparent membrane had already started to fail. He felt his strength getting weaker and weaker, and the pain in his chest was getting stronger and stronger. Father said that this magic treasure will quickly heal wounds when I suffer a fatal blow, avoid death, and save my life. However, this can only last for a day. If I can use my profound energy to grow new flesh and blood within this day to fill up the wound, I won't die, Xiao Huailin muttered, then immediately sat down cross-legged, urged his qi to adjust his breathing, and recovered from his injuries. However, after adjusting his breathing for a full 4 hours, the profound qi circulated crazily in his body, stimulating the cells and blood vessels in his body, causing them to regenerate, but there was no movement at all. The place where he was injured seemed to be completely isolated from him, and was not affected by the profound qi at all. Not a single bit of flesh and blood was produced. What's going on? Xiao Huailin turned pale with fright. No effect at all? He lowered his head to look at his wound, only to see a white flame burning on it. Although it was very small and faint, it was real. No matter how the profound qi pounced on the flame, it could not be extinguished. This flame was thousands of times more violent than the flame he used. How could Xiao Huailin know that this was the highest flame on the Tribulation Fire Sword's Iron Mountain? Even if he used a sacred art, he might not be able to extinguish the flame. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Just as Xiao Huailin turned pale with fright, a clear sound came out from the side. Chapter 592. When the voice came out, Xiao Huailin immediately jumped up, pulled out his sword and retreated, and looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw a petite young lady dressed in a purple robe standing in front of a burning tree. The young lady's appearance was exceptionally exquisite and cute, with white skin and big black eyes, as if she could speak. Her long hair hung down to her waist, but behind her there was a snow-white tail, and on her head were two cute fox ears. Fox demon. Xiao Huailin was startled. Eh? What kind of profound technique is this? The fox demon looked at Xiao Huailin's chest, and revealed a surprised expression. "I'm seriously injured." Xiao Huailin suddenly clenched his teeth and said, "I was beaten up by those shameless people from Linglong Mountain. They bullied me with their numbers, and I couldn't beat them alone, so I became like this." "But why aren't you dead? What was going on with this chest? With such heavy injuries, if it was a normal person, they would have died long ago, right?" The fox demon continued to ask. "This is a life-extending magic treasure that my father gave me. I need to quickly recover from the injury on my chest, but right now, my profound chi seems to be unable to recover from this injury. I need to go back and see my father, and ask him to save me." After saying that, Xiao Huailin's face suddenly turned cold. He stared at the fox demon and said, "I see that your cultivation is not low. It is difficult for me to walk now, so bring me out of Wanhua realm. If you are willing to bring me away and return to Sword World, I will let my father reward you well. If you are not willing, I will kill you." With that said, Xiao Huailin extended his hand and pointed at his waist. A strand of profound energy was injected into his belt, and in that moment a furious roar erupted, and a majestic fire dragon flew out from his belt, dancing in the sky. Seeing that, the fox demon was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. She hurriedly retreated and said, "Don't act recklessly, don't kill me, I'll bring you there." "That's more like it." Xiao Huailin kept the fire dragon and nodded in satisfaction. "However, I don't know where the Sword World you're talking about is. You have to lead the way." "Of course, just take me there." "How long will it take to get to Sword World from here?" "At least 3 days." "Then how long can you last?" "This. 1 day." Xiao Huailin hesitated for a moment. "1 day? Aren't you going to die on the road?" The fox demon pressed her finger against her pink lip. "I will accelerate your chi and speed up your journey. Try to get there within a day. But if there's an accident on the way and you're delayed, won't you die on the way? Can you guarantee that you won't encounter any enemies on the way? Can you guarantee that we won't encounter any dire beasts along the way?" The fox demon curved her beautiful eyes and laughed. "I think it's better not to go to the Sword World. You should first stabilize your injuries. As long as your injuries are stable, you can go to your Sword World by yourself. Isn't that better? If I could stabilize my injuries, why would I waste so much time talking to you?" Xiao Huailin said somewhat impatiently. The fox demon smiled slyly and said, "I know of a place with a spirit spring. It is said that this spirit spring is extremely magical. It is formed from the blood of the goddess above the 9 heavens after she died. It is holy and noble. If an ordinary person soaks in it, their body can become indestructible. If a spirit cultivator soaks in it, their cultivation will increase explosively. Their body will not be destroyed. For someone with serious injuries like yours, soak in it or your injuries will recover." Hearing that, Xiao Huailin's eyes shone with a golden light, as though he had grabbed onto a life-saving straw, and said anxiously, "There's actually such a place? Tell me, where is the spirit spring?" "I came here to look for the spirit spring, and it just so happens to be nearby." "Why? Do you want to go?" The fox demon laughed. How about I bring you there? Great! Great! If there is a place like this, I cannot take the risk to travel. Xiao Huailin nodded his head and said happily, Quickly bring me there. All right then. Follow me. The fox demon laughed, then wagged her foxtail and walked forward. A warm spring flowed into Su Yun's body, nourishing the dry qi meridian, blood vessels, and flesh and bones. This feeling was extremely comfortable. When Su Yun regained consciousness, he could not help but open his eyes, only to see a middle-aged man with short hair and a square face sitting in front of him. The man's hands were pressing on Su Yun's chest, his eyes were closed as he urged his qi, sensing that Su Yun had woken up. He opened his eyes and looked at Su Yun, slightly retracted his hand, then stood up and cupped his fists with a smile. Master Su, you're awake, do you feel better? Who are you? Su Yun looked at the person in front of him suspiciously and asked curiously, Where is this? I am Feather Moon Pavilion's Vice Pavilion Master, Mo Ping. Lord Su is the protector of the Lotus Star Sword sect, so he is naturally still in the Lotus Star Sword sect. The middle-aged man with the square face laughed. Lord Su fought against the thief Xiao Huailin, fought against the ancient fierce beast's fire dragon, and as an important minister of the Realm Lord, you hold the divine leaf and have a respected status, so I am under the orders of the Pavilion Master to treat your injuries. Su Yun's position as a protector was actually nothing in the eyes of Yen Wen and the rest. Forget about the protector, even if the old sect leader was compared to him, it would be useless. The Lotus Star Sword sect was not some big sect. If not, the Black Hawk cult would not bully and humiliate him like that. However, with the divine leaf in Su Yun's hands, the nature was different. The divine leaf represented the Realm Lord, which meant that Su Yun had the support of the Realm Lord, so it was natural for the Feather Moon Pavilion to save Su Yun. Su Yun nodded his head. Then I really have to thank Pavilion Master Mo for saving me. Hey Master, you're too polite. Mo Ping laughed. Although you have a lot of injuries, they are not serious. The wounds are not fatal, but the consumption of profound strength is too great, and the qi meridian is slightly damaged. You should rest for now, and I will inform the Pavilion Master and the others. With that, Mo Ping left the house. Su Yun looked around the room, and realized that it was the old sect leader's room. Thinking that the old sect leader was no longer here, Su Yun felt a trace of sadness in his heart. If not for the old sect leader, he would have died a long time ago. He sighed, sat down cross-legged, and began to meditate with his eyes closed. However, just as he was about to adjust his breathing, he was shocked. The profound qi in his body was many times purer than before, and the purity of the profound qi was even higher and denser. If the profound qi before was like a thin cloud that could be blown away by the wind, then the profound qi now was like a black cloud before a storm, suppressing the city and destroying the people. It was vast and boundless. Not only the profound qi, the qi meridian, flesh and blood, bones, tendons, spirit core and so on had all undergone an unimaginable and miraculous change, becoming stronger and more powerful. What was going on? Could it be that after fighting with Xiao Huailin, his strength had increased by so much? Su Yun thought. He raised his right hand, opened his palm and released a bit of profound qi, only to see a circle of white light appearing on his palm, and strands of immortal qi floated out, revolving around his palm. He gently held his palm and touched the profound qi. The profoundness and miraculousness of the profound qi was simply shocking. Third stage of Sky Spirit Master. Suddenly jumping 3 grades. What was going on? Su Yun realized that with his current level of profound qi, it was already difficult for him to think. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his shocked face quickly calmed down. Could it be the old sect leader's cultivation? It is extremely possible that before the old sect leader died, he had given himself all of his power. This might not only be a temporary buff to the profound strength, it could also be a type of technique similar to a technique. although I did not obtain all of the old sect leader's cultivation, the remaining power is already very impressive. Su Yun dispersed the profound qi, took a deep breath, and sat cross-legged to recuperate. Thump. At this moment, light footsteps came from outside the house. Su Yun opened his eyes and saw a few spirit cultivator walking in. He had met the leader once when he was fighting with Xiao Huailin, and it was the Yen one who had grabbed Xiao Huailin with a single palm. Master Su Yun, are you feeling better? Yenwen walked into the house and smiled. Thank you for your care, Su Yun is fine. Su Yun stood up and said, It's good that you're fine. Yenwen nodded his head. He turned and nodded to Mo Ping, who was at the side, only to see Mo Ping bringing over a box and placing it in front of Su Yun. Master Su Yun, you have done a great service in protecting my Linglong Mountain. This is a gift from the Linglong Mountain, I hope you can accept it. Yenwen laughed. Gift? Su Yun frowned. He extended his hand and opened the box, only to see 5 dark green beads inside. The beads were glistening and emitting a fragrance. It was obvious that they were not ordinary items. Why did you give me a gift? As a protector, I am only doing my job. Furthermore, even if I do not make a move, Xiao Huailin will still kill me. Saying that, Su Yun looked at Yenwen and the rest, and said, Pavilion Master, you should speak frankly. Hearing that, Yenwen smiled, and after a moment of silence, he said, Since Master Su Yun has said it like that, I will not beat around the bush. In fact, we all have questions in our hearts, and do not know how to ask. Now that Master Su Yun is here, we will not be polite, and will tell you. May I ask Master Su Yun, did the Realm Lord send you here this time? Why did you come to the Linglong Mountain? It's just a private matter. Su Yun said. Just a private matter? Yes. Su Yun nodded seriously, but did not say much. Yenwen looked at Su Yun and did not say anything. After thinking for a moment, he cupped his fists towards Su Yun and said, Master Su Yun, rest well, we will not disturb you any further. With that, he waved his hand and the group left. Seeing that, Su Yun finally understood the intention behind Yenwen's gift. It turned out that Yenwen and the rest were worried that Su Yun's trip to the Linglong Mountain was inspired by the Realm Lord. Although the Linglong Mountain was said to be a place that could not be governed by the Realm Lord, but in truth, the people here still respected the Realm Lord. Even the so-called saints had no choice but to act according to the Realm Lord's wishes. Su Yun heaved a sigh of relief. He took out the divine leaf and looked at it, feeling that his head was in a mess. No matter what he needed to do now was to find his parent. Knock, knock, knock. At this moment there was another knock on the door, and then a voice floated in from outside. Protector Su, are you awake? Chapter 593. Who? Su Yun asked. It's Hua Tianwu. Hua Tianwu? Su Yun thought for a while, then a figure appeared in his mind. He smiled and said, Oh, it's you, come in and talk. Thank you, Protector. Hua Tianwu said. He pushed the door open and entered. After walking in, he cupped his fists and bowed respectfully to Su Yun, who was sitting inside the array seal. Tianwu, what's the matter? Su Yun asked. It's like this, Protector. Protector Bu Ming and Protector Qing Wenlu have both died in battle, and our sect has no vice leader. Now that the sect leader has passed away, the sect needs someone to take care of all the matters, and the sect leader's funeral and the rebuilding of our sect will also need to be carried out, so everyone hopes that you can step forward and take charge of the sect. Hua Tianwu said seriously. Hearing that, Su Yun frowned. He frowned, thought for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. Actually, when I first entered the Lotus Star Sword sect, it was only to deal with the Black Hawk cult, and to repay the old sect leader's kindness. I have no intention of becoming the protector of the Lotus Star Sword sect. I still have important matters to attend to, so I will not stay in the sword sect. Hearing that, Hua Tianwu was in a difficult position. Protector, a country cannot be without a ruler for a day, a family cannot be without a master for a day, and my Lotus Star Sword sect cannot be without a sect leader either. If that's the case, wouldn't this huge sect be disbanded? Could it be that other than me, no one else can be the sect leader of the Lotus Star Sword sect? Su Yun did not understand. No one can compare to you, Protector, in terms of prestige and strength. Hua Tianwu shook his head. Su Yun laughed out loud. Prestige? I have heard that Hua Jingrui has been in the Lotus Star Sword sect for close to 100 years, and his cultivation has also reached the 3rd stage of the Sky Spirit Master. In terms of prestige and strength, you are actually not weaker than anyone else. Since I am not the sect leader, why don't you do it? Me? Hua Tianwu was stunned. Not bad, you're more suitable than me. Su Yun laughed. I can't. Hua Tianwu waved his hand again and said, the so-called prestige is not only the prestige within the sect, but also the prestige within the Linglong Mountain. If I am the sect master, I will definitely not be able to convince others, and if the sect master is too weak, I will inevitably be bullied by other sections. Perhaps in the future, people like the Black Hawk cult who will provoke and cause trouble will increase day by day, so Protector, I still need you to be the sect master. Hearing that, Su Yun rubbed his chin and thought hard for a while. Suddenly, he clapped his hands and said, Didn't my sect say that there is no vice sect leader position? How about this, you take the position of sect leader, and I take the position of vice sect leader. What do you think? Everyone in the Linglong Mountain knew that Su Yun was a member of the Realm Lord. Although he was not a sect leader, being a vice sect leader had enough deterrence. At least he could ensure the peace of the Lotus Star Sword sect. Hua Tianwu opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but Su Yun hit it off and said, Then it's settled. Su Yun had made his decision, and Hua Tianwu could not refute it. After recuperating for a few days, he felt that he had recovered a lot, so he returned to the Lotus Star Sword sect and organized the reconstruction work with Hua Tianwu. The great battle with the Black Hawk cult and Xiao Huailin caused the Lotus Star Sword sect to suffer heavy losses. Many experts and people with important positions had died in battle, so Su Yun had no choice but to select new talents, and select some people with both experience and talent to take up important positions. After most of the matters in the Lotus Star Sword sect were settled, Su Yun informed Hua Tianwu and left the Sword sect. In the past few days in the Sword sect, he had received many invitations from the sect leaders of various sects, all of them hoping that Su Yun could go to the sect as a guest for a chat. This group of people only valued him for 2 things. 1. His identity as an important minister of the Realm Lord. 2. The powerful giant that killed Xiao Huailin, which shocked everyone. This magic tool was extraordinary. Everyone thought that there must be an expert behind Su Yun. If not, he would not be able to control such a powerful magic tool. No one would think that this magic tool was bestowed by the Realm Lord, because the strong qi emitted by the Devil Bone Spirit was Devil Qi, not Spirit Life Qi. Although Su Yun was not very willing to go, these sects had been entrenched in the Linglong Mountain for many years, and knew everything about this place. Going to the various sects to ask about the whereabouts of his parents was definitely much more efficient than running around aimlessly. Su Yun visited a total of 13 families, chatting for a long time, but when he asked about Su Shintian and Shin Shueshue, no one knew, but with Su Yun's status as an important minister of the Realm Lord, these sects were still very willing to help Su Yun. As a result, the names of Su Shintian and Shin Shueshue spread throughout the entire Linglong Mountain, and many people knew that a person called Su Yun was looking for them. If the news were to spread, if father and mother knew, they would definitely know that I was looking for them, and they would definitely take the initiative to meet up with me. Su Yun thought. However, what made Su Yun extremely disappointed was that after wandering around the Linglong Mountain for half a day, there was still no news. All of the people that he entrusted either returned empty-handed, or the people he was looking for were just people with the same name, and were not Su Yun's parents. Helpless, he could only head to the last sect that he had yet to visit, which was one of the 2 top sects of the Linglong Mountain, the Feather Moon Pavilion. The Feather Moon Pavilion was located in the middle of the Linglong Mountain, not like the Black Hawk sect and the Lotus Star Sword sect, which were built on top of a mountain. The Feather Moon Pavilion was surrounded by green mountains and green waters. In the center, there were many jade pavilions and cranes flying in the air. It gave off the feeling of a celestial abode in the water-moon paradise. Su Yun's identity was now very different. The person that the people of the Linglong Mountain were talking about the most was him, so entering the Feather Moon Pavilion was smooth sailing. Master Su Yun, you're finally here. Pavilion Master has been waiting for you for a long time. A disciple of the Feather Moon Pavilion said to Su Yun with a smile, and then quickly led him into the pavilion. The buildings in the Feather Moon Pavilion were all pavilions, one after another, densely packed together. As far as the eye could see, there were probably hundreds of them. There were tall and short pavilions, and the ordinary disciples lived in the 3-story pavilions, while the disciples with higher cultivation levels lived in the 4-story pavilions. Pavilion Master Yan Wen and Vice Pavilion Master Mo Ping were 7 stories tall, and their pavilions were all at the innermost part. Su Yun passed through the pavilions, his eyes constantly looking around, scanning everything in the Feather Moon Pavilion. When he was brought to the pavilion where Yan Wen was, Yan Wen and Mo Ping were already waiting inside. Master Su Yun's arrival at the humble pavilion has truly brought light to my humble Feather Moon Pavilion. Master Su Yun, please come in. Yan Wen stood up to welcome him and said with a smile, "Greetings, Pavilion Masters." Su Yun smiled and bowed, then sat down. "Heart is in sync, watch the tea." "Yes, Pavilion Master." The disciple who led Su Yun into the Feather Moon Pavilion immediately retreated. Very quickly, a few cups of fragrant tea were served. After the tea, without waiting for Su Yun to speak, Yan Wen spoke first. "I have already heard about Master Su Yun's matter. It is said that you are looking for Su Shintian and Shin Shueshua, right?" "That's right." Su Yun nodded his head, but until now there has been no news. It really makes one feel helpless. Su Yun sighed. He could not activate the heavenly seeking treasure bell. He did not know if his parents were still in the Linglong Mountain. Master Su Yun has entrusted the experts of the various sects to help with this matter. It is not difficult to investigate the 2 of them, but there is no news for so many days. In my opinion, I am afraid that Su Shintian and Shin Shueshu are not in the Linglong Mountain. If they are, I am afraid that they have already changed their names. Just then, Mo Ping, who was at the side, spoke up. Hearing that, Su Yun immediately slapped his head and said, "Pavilion Master Mo's words really hit the nail on the head. Maybe the 2 of them really did change their names, but, if they knew that I was looking for them, they should have immediately come to see me, but they did not do so." Hearing that, Yan Wen laughed. "May I ask Master Su Yun, what is the relationship between these 2 people and you?" "To tell you the truth, these 2 are my parents." "Is that so?" Yan Wen and Mo Ping were surprised. They never thought that Su Yun was here to look for his father and mother. The 2 of them were silent. Su Yun cupped his fists and said, "Feather Moon Pavilion is the number 1 sect in the Linglong Mountain. I am afraid that Su Yun will have to trouble the 2 Pavilion Masters. I hope that the 2 Pavilion Masters can help me find news of my parents. If I can reunite with them, Su Yun will definitely not forget the kindness of the Feather Moon Pavilion." "Master Su Yun, what do you mean? You have defeated Xiao Huailin and stopped the fierce beast's fire dragon, so you are the hero of my Linglong Mountain. Since you have done our Linglong Mountain a favor, we will naturally help you." Yan Wen waved his hand. Su Yun laughed. He did not say anything, but felt that Yan Wen's words made him feel uncomfortable. "But then again, Master Su Yun, although my Feather Moon Pavilion is not small, and other sects cannot compare to it, but to be honest, no matter how strong my Feather Moon Pavilion is, it cannot compare to the other sects combined. You have entrusted so many sects to help you investigate, but there is no news. I am afraid that even if we send out our men, it would be futile." Mo Ping said. "That's right." Yan Wen nodded in agreement. Su Yun's brows knitted together again. He had already thought of Mo Ping's words, but there was nothing he could do. He did not know how to continue. Could it be that he had to give up? Or, the news that the heavenly seeking treasure bell gave him was actually fake? It shouldn't be. Hey, you had been in business for so many years. He had seen countless treasures. How could he be wrong? Oh right. Just then, Mo Ping seemed to have thought of something and immediately called out. Su Yun and Yen Wen immediately turned to look at him. I forgot about a place. Maybe Master Su's parents might be there, Mo Ping said in a deep voice. Hearing that, Yen Wen's face became serious. He said in a low voice, Mo Ping, don't speak nonsense. Why would Master Su Yun's parents go to that place? Don't speak nonsense. Mo Ping opened his mouth, but in the end, he sighed and did not continue. But Su Yun's head was filled with fog. He looked at the two of them and asked impatiently, You two, what exactly is the place you are talking about? Yen Wen was silent for a moment, as though he wanted to say it but didn't want to, but since Su Yun was so impatient, he could only sigh and say, A place that does not belong to the Linglong Mountain, but I thought that Master Su Yun's parents would not be there. Chapter 594. Why is it impossible for my parents to appear there? Pavilion Master Yen, please finish what you have to say. What kind of place is that? Su Yun felt that something was wrong, but seeing that Yen Wen's words were flickering, his expression was not right, as though he was afraid of this place. Could this place be the forbidden area of the Linglong Mountain? Yen Wen hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and said, This place is called Dark Place. It is the most special place in the Wanhua realm, and also belongs to the forbidden area of the Wanhua realm. It is located at the bottom of the Linglong Mountain, and in fact, the reason why the Realm Lord does not enforce the laws of the other regions of the Wanhua realm is mostly because of the Dark Place. Dark Place? This was the first time Su Yun had heard of this word, and immediately asked, What kind of place is that? That is the darkest place in the Wanhua realm, and also the most chaotic place. Yen Wen took a deep breath and said, In this world there is yin and yang, there is good and evil, there is light and there is darkness. The Wanhua Realm Lord hopes that the Wanhua Realm is a harmonious and happy world, filled with truth and beauty. She does not wish for any filthy places to appear, but in the end this is just a realm. How can there not be evil and darkness? Thus, she sealed all the evil and filth in the entire Wanhua realm at the bottom of the Linglong Mountain, which was also the Dark Place. All the vicious creatures in the Dark Place had been imprinted by the Realm Lord, and they had completely lost the chance to step into the Wanhua realm. As long as they stepped into the Wanhua realm, they would be teleported into the Dark Place. This place belongs to the forbidden grounds of our Wanhua realm, and normally speaking, the people of the Linglong Mountain would not step into this place. Hearing that, Su Yun's face suddenly changed. Pavilion Master Yen Wen, are you saying that my parents might have been sent to the Dark Place by the Wanhua Realm Lord? That's not what I meant, Yen Wen immediately said. Although the Dark Place is a place where the Wanhua Realm hides its filth, it definitely does not mean that others are not allowed to enter. In fact, the Realm Lord did not restrict others from entering, and not only that, many people from the Wanhua realm have actually sneaked into the Dark Place. Enter the Dark Place? What? Is there anything else that attracts people here? Su Yun asked in amusement. Of course. Yen Wen nodded his head seriously. The Dark Place also has another name. It is called the Door of Disorder, because the entire Dark Place is actually a chaotic space. The reason why the Realm Master chose this place as the place to accumulate the darkness and filth of the Wanhua realm is also because of this. The entire Dark Place has a large number of twisted cracks. Some of them lead to the endless abyss, to the terrifying hell, and also to the unimaginable heaven on earth. No one knows where the end of the crack is, but what we know is that some people are able to go to the place they want to go through these cracks, and as a result, some people who want to leave the Wanhua realm and head to the more restrictive realms will choose to enter from the Dark Place. Oh! Hearing that, Su Yun frowned. Combined with the matter of his parents searching for his sister, it was not hard to imagine that his parents might be heading to a certain place when they entered the dark place. It's just that no one knows where the crack leads to, so some people never came back after entering the crack, Yenwon said again. Hearing that, how could Su-yun sit still? If his parents left the dark place through the crack, who knew where they would go? Su-yun had come all the way here to find his parents, so he was naturally worried about the safety of the two elders. He also wanted to meet the two elders, so he immediately stood up and said anxiously, "Pavilion Master Yen, please quickly bring me to the dark place. Master Su-yun, it is inevitable that there will be some extremely vicious people inside. I think you should still consider carefully, is your father and mother really in the dark place? Is the information you obtained accurate?" Yenwon did not seem to agree with Su-yun heading to the dark place, and tried to persuade him. But at this time, Su-yun had already steeled his heart to go to the dark place, and no one could stop him. "Pavilion Master Yenwon, if you are not willing to lead me down, then I can only find someone else." With that, Su-yun stood up and cupped his fists towards the two of them, and quickly walked away. "Lord Su, wait a moment." Yenwon immediately stood up and shouted anxiously. Su-yun stopped in his tracks and looked at him. Yenwon's expression changed, as though he had made a decision. After hesitating for about 7 to 8 breaths of time, he finally nodded and said helplessly, "Since Lord Su-yun insists on going, then all right, Yenwon can only agree to your request and bring you to the dark place. In that case, Su-yun will thank Pavilion Master Yen." Su-yun smiled and cupped his fists. Yenwon stood up and said to Mo Ping, who was beside him, "Mo Ping, quickly go and make the arrangements. In an hour, bring 50 of our sex elites and follow me to the dark place." "I'll go prepare now." Mo Ping stood up and quickly left the pavilion. Waves of rapid breathing could be heard in the forest. Xiao Huailin, who had a big hole in his chest, moved his tired steps forward step by step. He was gasping for breath violently, his face was pale white, and sweat was dripping down his face like beans. Looking at the fox demon who was walking leisurely in front of him, a trace of anger flashed past Xiao Huailin's powerless eyes. He pulled out the blood-red slender sword from his back and shouted angrily, "Hey, you fox spirit, are you lying to me? Why haven't we reached the spirit spring yet? Are you stalling for time? So you can drag me to death?" Hearing that, the fox demon who was walking in front stopped in her tracks and turned to look at him. She blinked her big watery eyes and said innocently, "No, why would I stall for time? Don't doubt me, okay? Then why isn't he here yet? Humph, let me tell you, don't play any trick. If I'm going to die, I definitely won't let you go. At the very least, you have to accompany me in death." Xiao Huailin snorted. "You're really unreasonable." The fox demon said helplessly, "I told you before that my purpose here is to find the spirit spring. I don't know the exact location of the spirit spring, but I know it's nearby. I haven't found it yet, have I? Can't you be a little patient? But if this goes on, I won't be able to hold on. How can I have the time to waste with you?" Xiao Huailin clenched his teeth and said. At this moment, he was powerless to speak. "Then there's nothing I can do. If you are really angry, then you can just kill me, but I have to remind you, if I die, no one will bring you to find the spirit spring, and your injuries will not be able to be controlled in a short period of time, then you will also die. Think about it yourself. Do you believe that I will find a chance of survival, or do you not believe that I will perish together?" The fox demon said indifferently. Hearing that, Xiao Huailin clenched his fists tightly, and said angrily in the end, "Cunning fox, stop talking nonsense, hurry up and leave." The corner of the fox demon's mouth raised into an extremely obscure and complacent smile. Her eyes curved into crescent moons as she turned around and continued forward. "Hey, you said you want to go to the sword world. What kind of world is this sword world? Are you from this world?" The fox demon who was walking in front looked around and asked. Of course I am from the sword world. The sword world is a world where swords are the most important. There are many experts there, and they are definitely not something that the people of the Wanhua realm can compare to, Xiao Huailin said arrogantly, but his voice was not loud, and his expression was still ugly, as if he was trying to save face. The fox demon glanced at him and asked, "Then why did you come here?" "Naturally, it's to learn, to gain experience, and also to collect some good treasures. Is the sword world not enough for you to cultivate?" The people of the sword world are different from the people of the Wanhua realm. If we are to say that they are similar, then maybe the experts in the upper half of the ultimate martial world are very similar to them. The people of the sword world do not pay attention to cultivation, they only have one way to cultivate, and that is to increase their cultivation through continuous challenges. All the fierce beasts in the entire realm have been killed by the people of the sword world, and every day there are countless battles going on everywhere. Because I am too weak, I am not suitable to cultivate in the sword world, so under my father's arrangements, I entered the ultimate martial world, and planned to train for a while, and then return after my cultivation has reached a certain level. After that, I went to the Wanhua realm, and came to the Linglong Mountain to study, but I never thought that the people of the Linglong Mountain would be more despicable than the other. They would fight one-on-one, but they would bully me with numbers. This was not allowed in the sword world. Whoever interferes in a one-on-one battle will be immediately executed by the Saint Realm experts. Xiao Huailin said angrily, when he was talking about the excitement. He pulled on his wound and started coughing violently again. When the fox demon heard this, she felt that it was extremely funny. This was the first time she had heard of this sword world. She did not expect the people of this world to be so interesting. Speaking of which, why would your father be at ease with you coming here? And if I were your father, I would give you a lot of life-saving magic treasure, right? Is that all you have? The fox demon asked again. Hearing that, Xiao Huailin's face flushed red. Of course I have a lot of life-saving magic treasure, but this injury is very strange. Those magic treasure are all useless. Is that so? Speaking of which, how many people have you challenged since you came to the ultimate martial world? Not many. I roughly estimated that there are more than 100 great sages from the great powers. Is there anyone powerful? Yes, but none of them can defeat me and the fire dragon. They were still eaten by my fire dragon, and those weaker ones called for help. I had no choice but to exterminate them all. Then didn't you kill a lot of people? So what? The weak should die. Speaking of which, who was the one who injured you? It seems to be a guy from the Lotus Star Sword sect. I remember that guy's name is Su Yun. Damn it, I will tear him into pieces one day. Su Yun, looking at his injuries, he should be quite powerful. It's just the result of the experts of the Linglong Mountain helping him. If it's a one-on-one fight, I'm not afraid of him. Xiao Huailin said unconvinced. All right, I know you're powerful. The fox demon covered her lips and smiled, and did not say anything else. At this time, the two of them passed through the forest and arrived in front of an empty space next to a mountain. In the middle of the empty space, there was a clear spring, and wisps of smoke were rising from the spring. Seeing that, a strange light flashed past the fox demon's eyes. She turned her head and smiled at Xiao Huailin, who was behind her. Great, we found the spirit spring. Chapter 595. When Xiao Huailin, who was rushing with his head lowered, heard the fox demon's words, it was like an extremely thirsty person hearing a river in front of him. He suddenly raised his head and shouted, Where? Where is it? Where is the spirit spring? After looking around a few times, the spirit spring in front of the fox demon immediately floated in front of him. Xiao Huailin was overjoyed. He could no longer care about anything else, and laughed as he ran towards the spirit spring. However, after running a few steps, Xiao Huailin could not help but stop in his tracks. His smile gradually stopped as he frowned. His gaze landed on the spirit spring and the side of it. there were a lot of things floating above the spirit spring. Upon closer inspection, they were actually human bones. Beside the spirit spring, there were a lot of bones lying in a mess. How did this look like a spirit spring? It was more like a pot of soup with human bones. Do you have any questions? Seeing that Xiao Huailin had stopped, the fox demon hugged her towering and full breasts, squinted her long and charming eyes, and smiled at Xiao Huailin. What's going on? Is this really a spirit spring that can regenerate flesh and bones from the dead? Why are there so many skeletons? Xiao Huailin felt that something was amiss. He held onto his sword tightly, stared at the fox demon, and said coldly, "You already said that this is a spirit spring that can regenerate flesh and bones from the dead. Naturally, there are many seriously injured and sick people who come here." The fox demon laughed. "However, these people are not too lucky. They must have died before they could even receive the treatment from the spirit spring. That's why you saw so many skeletons." "Impossible," Xiao Huailin immediately retorted, and said angrily. "Even if a person dies, the soul will still be there, but I can't even feel the soul of another person in the vicinity. So, you must be lying to me. After these people die, even their souls cannot be preserved. They must have been killed by someone. Furthermore, the person who killed them is definitely you." "You're wrong. I definitely did not kill these people. I can swear in front of you," the fox demon immediately said in a serious tone. Her watery eyes gave off a pitiful and innocent feeling. "Then what's going on?" Xiao Huailin immediately shifted his gaze away from the fox demon's big eyes, and frowned. "In the end, you still don't believe me?" The fox demon pouted. "How can I believe you in this situation?" Xiao Huailin clenched his teeth and said. The fox demon rolled her eyes and giggled again. She looked at Xiao Huailin in ridicule, and then said with an indifferent look, "Now that things have come to this, do you have any other choice? Either you believe me and take a gamble and enter the spirit spring to see if it has any effect, or you don't enter the spirit spring and wait for death here. Or you kill me and we all die together. In any case, no matter what, only death awaits you." After saying that, the fox demon covered her pink little mouth and giggled. Xiao Huailin's expression changed. What she said was right. Right now, he had no other choice but to believe her. If he didn't enter the spirit spring, with the injuries on his body, it wouldn't be long before he died. At that time, his body would be destroyed, and he would be devoured by the nearby spirit beasts and ferocious beasts with only his 3 souls and 7 spirits. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. There was no other choice. Xiao Huailin clenched his teeth, turned his head and stared at the strange spirit spring that was emitting smoke. In the end, he made up his mind and walked towards the spirit spring. Seeing that, the fox demon walked to the big boulder at the side and sat down with her but raised. A big furry tail gently swayed as she looked at Xiao Huailin, who was walking towards the spirit spring in amusement. The dried bones, the rotting smell, and the bubbling spirit spring made the place look extremely strange. The more Xiao Huailin saw, the more he felt that something was amiss. He stared at the bones, only to see that some of the bones had already shattered. Like sand, they slowly disintegrated in the spirit spring. Some of them were extremely bright, as if they had just died not long ago. Suddenly, Xiao Huailin, who was close to the spirit spring, suddenly turned around, and with a speed that was close to teleportation, he suddenly landed in front of the fox demon. The fox demon opened her eyes wide, but before she could react, Xiao Huailin grabbed her fair neck, and then threw her into the spirit spring. "I don't know if you're trying to harm me, so just to be safe, you should go down first," Xiao Huailin said coldly. In order to stop the fox demon from resisting, he even added a burst of profound energy to push. The fox demon was like a kite with its string cut, falling towards the spirit spring. Very quickly, with a plop, it disappeared without a trace. Xiao Huailin immediately opened his eyes wide, and stared straight at the spirit spring. A large amount of bubbles came out from the spirit spring, and then there was no other movement. But after a while, a pair of furry ears poked out from the spring, followed by the fox demon's cute and exquisite little head. Nothing? Xiao Huailin was startled. She glanced at Xiao Huailin seductively and laughed. You sure know how to enjoy yourself. You actually want me to accompany you to soak in the hot spring. Hee hee, all right, since you have this intention, then I will listen to you. With that said, the fox demon extended her white jade-like hand and hooked it at Xiao Huailin. Are you relieved now? Come quickly. I'm waiting for you. Seeing that the fox demon was fine, how could Xiao Huailin dare to hesitate? With rapid and intense breathing, he immediately took a step forward and ran towards the spirit spring. This time, he did not care about the bones inside and outside the spirit spring, and directly jumped in with a plop. However, the moment Xiao Huailin entered the spirit spring, a miserable scream resounded throughout the entire spirit spring. Ah! This voice came from Xiao Huailin. He was roaring hysterically. His miserable voice seemed to want to tear the entire mountain and rock apart. Xiao Huailin, who had fallen into the spirit spring, was quickly losing all of his flesh, and the substance on his chest that was maintaining his life also started to become unrestrained. Not long later, pieces of white bones started to be exposed. Xiao Huailin screamed miserably. He used his last bit of strength and jumped out of the strange spirit spring. How was this a spirit spring? It was simply a terrifying pool of corrosive water. He powerlessly fell to the ground. At this moment, both of his legs had completely turned into bones, and there was not much flesh left on his body. Only his head was still intact. It was all thanks to Xiao Huailin's high cultivation that a person like this was able to survive. Ha 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 ha! Gao Yang's delicate laughter came from the side. Xiao Huailin turned his distorted face to look at the spirit spring, only to see the fox spirit flying out from the spirit spring. Her entire body was unharmed. Not only was she not injured, she did not even touch a drop of water. In that moment, Xiao Huailin understood. It turned out that the moment this cunning fox spirit fell into the water, she had used the profound qi to surround her body, isolating herself from the spring water's attack. You actually lied to me. Xiao Huailin gritted his teeth. That's right, I just lied to you, you big idiot. So what? Ha 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 ha. The fox demon laughed even more complacently, her watery eyes filled with complacency. Seeing that, Xiao Huailin could no longer endure it, and pressed his hand on his belt. In that moment, the fire dragon hidden in his belt surged out. A large amount of flames enveloped the inside and outside of the spirit spring, its roar shaking the heavens. Kill this despicable fox spirit for me! Xiao Huailin roared hysterically. The fire dragon was enraged. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed the fox spirit. That aura was not something that the petite fox could contend against. However, just as the fire dragon approached, a strange golden light suddenly blossomed from the fox spirit's body. This aura was extremely exquisite, like a divine technique that recorded tens of thousands of worlds, making it difficult for people to understand. The moment it appeared, it immediately dissolved the terrifying dragon might of the fire dragon. The fire dragon still did not have the slightest bit of fear. It bent down and charged towards the fragile creature. However, the golden light changed again. A huge golden claw emerged from the golden light and grabbed the fire dragon with an unparalleled might. Then, the huge claw smashed the fire dragon on the ground. The fire dragon was completely suppressed and couldn't move. Its flames scattered in all directions and it lost all of its might. This is Dragon Claw? Xiao Huailin's pupils dilated a few times. This fire dragon shouldn't be a real existence. It's just an ethereal body. If I'm not mistaken, the fire dragon's heart or a wisp of its soul must be sealed in the belt around your waist. Am I right? But it's a pity that compared to me, your strength is still insignificant. The fox spirit giggled, her eyes filled with pride. You! Just who are you? Xiao Huailin roared with extreme hatred. Who I am has nothing to do with you. You just need to know that you have offended someone you shouldn't have offended. TSK, TSK, TSK. At first, I only targeted you because I wanted to snatch your exquisite cultivation. But later on, I never thought that you would actually provoke Big Brother, Su-Yun. Hee, since that's the case, then you deserve to die 10,000 times. As the fox spirit spoke, she raised her hand and pulled out a blood-red scimitar, and walked towards Xiao Huailin step by step. When I take out your soul and spirit, I will refine it into my magic treasure, True Dragon City, and refine it into a Qi Dan, helping me cultivate and ascend. Ha 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 ha. Hearing that, Xiao Huailin wanted to stand up and fight, but the fox spirit's cultivation was not weak. If Xiao Huailin was at his peak, he would not be afraid of the fox spirit, even if he was heavily injured previously. Even if he could not defeat the fox spirit, it would not be a problem for him to run away. But it was different now. His body was severely corroded, and a few of his Qi Meridian-s had been corroded. What spirit spring? In the beginning, it was simply a non-existent existence. This fox spirit had long since set her eyes on him, planning to plunder his cultivation and plunder his magic treasure. The hatred in Xiao Huailin's heart overflowed to the heavens. He wished that he could immediately skin the fox spirit and torture her soul forever. But at this moment all of this was just hatred. In reality, there was nothing he could do. Stop. Stop. You can't kill me. Xiao Huailin clenched his teeth. My father is the sect leader of All Empty Sect. All Empty Sect is a famous sect in Sword World. If you kill me, my father will definitely not let you off if he finds out. Ayaya, I'm so scared. The fox spirit patted her full chest, looking afraid. Just that, in the next second, the sharp scimitar directly slashed towards Xiao Huailin's neck. Without any warning, without the slightest bit of mercy, he killed without any hesitation. This method was more than just vicious. A poochie sound could be heard. Before Xiao Huailin could even react, he felt his neck light up, and his vision started to spin. Chapter 596. The Linglong Mountain was an extremely large mountain range, filled with cultivators and sects. It had existed in the Wanhua realm for an unknown number of years. People from the Wanhua realm would usually gather in the Linglong Mountain. It could be said that other than the Realm Tree, the Linglong Mountain was the most prosperous. However, those who had come to the Linglong Mountain for a period of time would all know that at the foot of the Linglong Mountain there was a special place, and that was the Dark Place. When Su-Yun followed Mo Ping to the entrance of the Dark Place, he realized that what Yan-Wen said was not completely correct, because at the entrance of the Dark Place, he could see a large number of spirit cultivator going in and out. According to Mo Ping's introduction, there were a large number of spatial cracks in the Dark Place, and they were known as the Door of Disorder. As a result, many spirit cultivator wanted to borrow the Door of Dark Place to head to other realms, so there were many spirit cultivator-s at the entrance of the Dark Place. However, as the darkest realm in the Wanhua realm, the dangers in the Dark Place were not something an ordinary person could imagine. Every day there were countless spirit cultivator who died miserably in the Dark Place, and if they were not killed by the vicious beasts inside, they would have mistakenly entered the crevice and disappeared. There were no laws or regulations in the Dark Place. The rules of the Wanhua realm and the rules of the Linglong Mountain were unable to govern the Dark Place, so this place was usually called a forbidden ground by the spirit cultivator, but it did not forbid the spirit cultivator from going there. Mo Ping and the rest brought Su-Yun to the entrance and stopped in their tracks. Master Su-Yun, this is the entrance to the Dark Place. Due to the rules of the pavilion, it is not convenient for us to enter the Dark Place. I am afraid that it will be difficult for us to help Master Su-Yun. Please forgive us. Mo Ping cupped his fists. The Dark Place was too chaotic. For the safety of the disciples, Yan-Wen did not dare to casually send disciples to help Su-Yun search the Dark Place, so he was unable to help Su-Yun here. But Su-Yun could understand, although Yan-Wen gave him face, but this face was completely from the Realm Lord, His own face was not big enough for Yen to sacrifice his own people. It's nothing, since things have come to this. I, Su, should be thanking your esteemed sect for helping me. Su Yun returned the greeting. The two of them exchanged pleasantries. Su Yun was about to bid farewell and walk into the dark place. Mo Ping sent 2 disciples of the Feather Moon Pavilion to the side to guard the entrance. If Su Yun needed help, he could leave the dark place and inform the 2 disciples to inform Yen and Mo Ping. The entrance to the dark place was very strange. It landed in the middle of a large rock. This boulder was incredible. It was at least 100 meters tall, but it didn't look like a mountain or a peak. It was just a single boulder, and the crack seemed to have been cut in the middle. A pitch-black crack ran from top to bottom, extending from top to bottom. The crevice was filled with dense demonic energy and death aura. If a person entered the crevice, they would fall straight down, all the way to the bottom of the Linglong Mountain, which was the so-called dark place. Although the dark place was incomparably dark and filled with a large amount of strange qi, amongst these qi, the devil qi and evil qi were the strongest. Su Yun did not feel uncomfortable, but instead felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. Su Yun was truly shocked. Since when did he have such feelings towards devil qi and demonic qi? Now was not the time to think about that. After Su Yun landed, he looked around. At the same time, many spirit cultivators came in from the entrance, and his surroundings were already surrounded by a large number of figures. The noise was endless, like a market. Where did this little brother come from? Which realm are you planning to go to? I know the entrances to the cracks in the Meru realm, Green Bamboo realm, Matter Critical realm, and other realms. If you can afford the profound coin, I can bring you to the corresponding realm. Just then, a black and swarthy guy who looked like a devil cultivator walked over and grinned at Su Yun. How much is it to go to the Meru realm? Su Yun asked with a smile. 1,500,000 profound coin. The devil cultivator chuckled. So expensive? Su Yun was shocked. How is this expensive? If you enter the wrong crevice, you won't even have your life. You can pay 1,500,000 to save your life. Isn't that worth it? Devil cultivator asked. However, just as he finished speaking, another pitch-black fellow scurried over. Su Yun glanced at him. He seemed to be an evil realm cultivator. Don't listen to his nonsense. 1,500,000, is he slaughtering a pig? Friend, come to me, 500,000 profound coin, I will bring you to the crack in the Meru realm. The evil realm cultivator said with a hoarse voice. Evil seeking, you're here to steal my business again, you despicable bastard. Devil cultivator frowned and said in dissatisfaction. I just don't like your way of doing things. Everyone wants to earn more profound coin to increase their cultivation, but you are too unreasonable, 1,500,000, to think that you can say it. The evil realm cultivator snorted. What does my business have to do with you? You're courting death. Devil cultivator was angry. He activated the devil chi and slapped towards the evil realm cultivator. The evil realm cultivator did not hesitate and activated his evil force to block. The two of them immediately started fighting. The crowd burst into an uproar as they scattered in all directions. However, other than a few spirit cultivators who had just entered the dark place, the others did what they had to do. No one paid any attention to the evil demon that was fighting. Su Yun was even more baffled. This place was truly a chaotic place to fight just like that. Su Yun shook his head. He could not be bothered with the two fellows, and directly walked inside. The light in the dark place was dim, and it looked like an incomparably wide cave. However, the top of the cave was extremely high, about a few hundred meters high, and on both sides of the cave, there were messy rocks, some big and some small, and many huge worms were stuck to the rocks. The ground was filled with corpses. Some had just died, and some had died a long time ago. Rather than saying that this was a chaotic place, it was more like a purgatory. Whiz! Just then, A figure flew over and directly fell in front of Su Yun's feet. Looking at this person, he was a young man in his 30s, but at this moment, his lower body was gone, and fresh blood and internal organs flowed all over the ground. He twitched twice, his head tilted, and he died, his soul flying out. Su Yun retreated a few steps and pulled out the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. Feeling that something was amiss, he pulled out the death sword. Not far away, a group of towering black figures ran over. These people did not look like demonic chi cultivators, nor did they look like evil realm beings. They rushed over like hungry wolves pouncing on their prey, grabbing onto the man's upper body and tearing it into pieces. They snatched the meat and stuffed it into their mouth. However, that person's 3 souls and 7 mortal forms were not spared either. The bodies of the worms that were attached to the stone cracked open, and a dark green tongue-like thing curled towards that person's 3 souls and 7 mortal forms. Then, they withdrew into the person's body and disappeared. Seeing that, Su Yun frowned. After the huge fellows finished snatching the man's meat, they all smacked their lips, feeling that it was not enough, but one of them saw Su Yun, and walked towards Su Yun, who was close to 3 meters tall. "You look unfamiliar, you must be new here. Hand over the money, or else you'll end up like that person just now." The man roared in a low voice, and a fist that was even bigger than Su Yun's head extended over. Su Yun looked at the man and asked, "How much?" "Pay as much as you have." "Oh, then I'm sorry, I don't have it." Su Yun laughed. With that said, he swung his arm like lightning, and the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword directly pierced the man's face. Poochie! Before that person could even react, a bright red sword was stabbed into his forehead. Roar! Seeing that, the rest of the big guys were enraged. They all rushed towards Su Yun, one after another. Terrifying gigantic hands smashed towards him, intending to smash him into meat paste. But before these big guys could smash Su Yun into meat paste, an even bigger bone hand that was like a small mountain descended from the sky, directly smashing into the middle of the group of big guys. The person standing in the middle did not dodge in time, and was directly smashed into pieces, dying miserably. The rest of the people were even more confused, and fell to the ground. Everyone looked, only to see that behind Su Yun, there was an incomparably large giant. The giant's aura was vast, the devil chi was unrestrained, and a pair of blood-red devil eyes stared coldly at them. These existences were scared out of their wits, and could not even stand straight. Su Yun kept the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword, and walked towards the big guys. "Come here!" Su Yun bellowed. Hearing that, no one dared to hesitate. They all ran over and knelt in front of Su Yun. They knew that they had kicked an iron plate this time. If they were not careful, they might even lose their lives. This was how it was in the dark place. Dignity was not important at all. As long as they could survive, the people here could immediately submit. Su Yun glanced at the group of people. There were about 7 or 8 of them. Their cultivation should be at the 10th stage of the Spirit Master. He waved his hand, and said indifferently, "You guys actually dare to rob me, you guys sure have guts, but I am in a good mood today, so I will not bother with you guys, and will let you guys go for now." Thank you, thank you." These big guys all kowtowed anxiously. "However, I won't let this matter rest so easily." Su Yun's face turned cold, and shouted, "I order you all to find a person called Su Shintian and a person called Shin Shueshua within 10 days. If you all do not find their whereabouts within 10 days, even if you all escape to the ends of the earth, I will capture you all and refine you all alive, understand? We will definitely find these 2 for you, we will definitely find them for you." Those big guys didn't dare to refuse and hurriedly said, "Very good." Su Yun nodded and said indifferently, "Do you guys have any way of contacting each other? Communication basically depends on roaring." Su Yun was a little speechless. He rubbed his chin and said, "Then I will wait here for your news in 10 days. If you find the 2 of them, you must pay attention to their movements, and tell them that someone called Su Yun is looking for them, understand?" Understood. Then hurry up and do your work. My lord, we will take our leave, we will take our leave. The group of big guys trembled as they spoke, and then, as if their feet had been smeared with oil, they ran away like a wisp of smoke. Seeing that, Su-yun heaved a sigh of relief, feeling helpless. Although he did not have much hope for this group of fellows, it was still better to let them do something than kill them. Su-yun snapped his fingers, kept the Devil Bone Giant, and continued on his way. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.